The following is a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club.
Hello and welcome to round 4 of the Summer Chess Classic. As always, my name is Caleb Denby and I am joined by Grandmaster Yasser Seirawan.
As always.
Yeah, good to see you again, Yasser. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
We've got an exciting day going on today.
Yes, we do.
It is round number 4, so we are nearing that halfway point.
Exactly.
And we have some pretty exciting situations in the standings,
Absolutely.
especially in the A group, where Robson managed to win
seed.
yesterday, along with Grigoriy Oparin and Christopher Yu. And actually, with a loss, Andrew Hong still remains tied for first place.
Right.
So 4 players tied for the lead, with 3 players just a half point back. I mean, when you say it's anybody's tournament, it is really anybody's tournament
at this point. Tell us about the standings in the B group.
Yeah, the B group also has an interesting situation going on. Andy Woodward, I'm not quite sure if he is the youngest. Alice might have him beat by a little bit, but at just 14 years old, he is very young and leading the tournament after 3 rounds.
And he is a Grandmaster elect as well,
Yes.
So very impressive.
Soon to be confirmed. With just a couple players trailing him, we saw Harshit Raja and Josiah Stearman, both with wins yesterday, trying to catch up.
Tell us about the format for the 2 events.
It's a great format this year. We have 2 10-player round robins, as always. That's the A group and the B group that we just showed you. The players themselves have 2 hours for their entire game. No extra time at move 40, but they do get that 30-second increment throughout. And once again, no draw offers. So,
you mentioned we're in round 4. Tell us about the schedule.
yeah, absolutely. Just 5 days remaining after today. As always, the games are able to be viewed at 1:30 p.m. at uschesschamps.com. Make sure you check that out for those standings and pairings and all the tournament information. And our show goes up online at 4 p.m. every day. Speaking of uschesschamps.com, if you want to get involved with the show, you're more than welcome to do so using the hashtag SummerChessClassic on X. Or you can reach out to us by viewing the stream, of course.
Absolutely.
So we'd love to hear from you in the chat, on YouTube, on Twitch. Always exciting to hear from the fans.
Yeah, it's nice to stump the masters, if you will. Lay the table for our audience. Tell them about the pairings for the A group.
Let's jump into the event. So we've got some good pairings going on. Andrew Hong plays Robson, 2 of the leaders, so that's a game to look out for. Antipov plays Kuybokarov. Awonder Liang up against Nico, Theodorou. Benjamin Bach plays Ante Brkic. And then our other 2 leaders, Christopher Yu and Grigoriy Oparin, are our key matchup of the day.
Right.
So without further fanfare, let's see how they're doing, Yasser.
Well, they kind of went whoop from the opening through the middle game right into the ending.
All right.
And something went wrong for Christopher.
Sure.
Essentially, Christopher is a pawn down in a rook and pawn endgame by the technicals and the table bases. I'm sure they would say draw.
Yes.
But you're white. You don't want to be a pawn down in a rook and pawn endgame. And in this current position, the last moves have been more or less Black is trying to finagle his king to the f4 square, and Christopher doesn't want to allow that.
Not having it.
No, so he's pulling the king back away from the key square f4. Obviously, if Black can get his king to f4 without losing a pawn, he's got winning chances. White will do his best to keep his king out of f4. And again, I think we're in a table base draw, but again, you don't want to be in this situation. A far more interesting games going on between Andrew and Ray. We'll come back to that. Tell us about the pairings for the B group.
Yeah, when you hear 2 versus 1, you think dead draw, but this one, there's still a little bit left. So we'll keep an eye here as well.
Exactly.
And over in that B group, we do have Melik playing one of our chasers, Harshit Raja, just a half point out of the lead. Akshat Chandra takes on Alice Lee. Brewington Hardaway plays Andy Woodward. Irina Krush plays Begim, Tokhirjonova. And our key matchup of the day, I think, is going to be Josiah Stearman up against Stephen Zier. So, Josiah, that is not Josiah, that's Andy, but that's
That
okay.
is Andy, yeah.
Josiah is one of our chasers
Exactly.
playing against Stephen. So we'll see if he's able to catch up to Andy Woodward with a very, very interesting position in this game.
Well, yeah, this passed pawn on the D file concerning. What a move. Knight takes f6. I kind of thought that white was just enjoying, let's say, the positional advantages of the position. You know, this pawn on d6 is really there. h3 slightly weak, but this one...
Yeah,
was,
what a time to join the game.
Yeah, an unexpected shot. Now, let's just see. We imagine we would take. I don't think I want to lose my c pawn. In case of something like this, I just feel like I've already gotten some nice pawns in the pocket, so to speak, and the king is a little bit risky. So I was thinking rook takes, d7.
So the point must be that we drew the knight away from that blockading square on d7, so we can push our pawn forward.
Let's go.
And queen d8 seems...
We'll blockade the pawn.
Maybe bishop c7 is also there, but queen d8 by far the most natural.
Right.
And
probably
rook e1?
Something of this nature. So for the moment, you know, like it's with a heavy heart, you might want to take this pawn. But this is a very, how do you say, the requirements of the position require you to calculate very, very precisely, because voluntarily going into the two, giving up the two minor pieces for the rook and pawn from a good position, you know, you got to make sure that this is advantage.
Well, yesterday, you know, Josiah had that nice win against Melik, and we were sitting here on the show trying to figure out that king and pawn game. We thought it must be winning somehow, and we couldn't do it. And then Josiah came on the show. He's like, yep, calculated it all. You just go h3, and boom. This one's winning, that one's not. So
where you go.
We'll see if his calculation is up to the test today.
Exactly. Also a game that actually I was really fascinated with.
Also critical for the standings.
Was Andy's game. Obviously, he's leading the B group with 2.5 out of 3. This young man seemed very, very composed when he came on the show, articulated very well what was going on in the position, and he currently has what my generation struggled with essentially our entire careers. 3 pawns versus a knight.
Yes.
Sicilian, and there were so many lines of both the Najdorf, Schevenigans, Rousers, where you had the sacrifice.
Of course.
Knight takes, pawn takes, knight takes, and it occurred dozens and dozens and dozens of games, and we struggled to understand when it was good, when it was bad, in other words, when it was good for white or whether it was bad for white. Strictly speaking, the endings tended to be good for the pawns.
Yes.
So if we have castles on the board, let's say white had played f3 earlier and black had played castles earlier, then with the queens on the board, very oftentimes white's king on the C file came under attack.
Yeah, I mean, all these open files.
Right.
Some checkmating ideas.
When the queens were off the board, it tended to be that the pawns were better. And I would say that the one player that really played these positions better than anybody with the 3 pawns was Vishy Anand.
That guy was pretty good.
And he was very, very, very good.
He's still pretty good.
And he's still pretty good. I mean, he may not be #1 by ratings in India anymore, but guess what? He's darn close. This position, I like it for white. If white gets to play 2 key moves, king b2, rook d1, and rook b4, bye-bye. The pawns will just go. So black has to do something very, very quickly about that. And one of the problems is the knight on b6 is
the key.
Not the...
The key when you have a piece for all these pawns is always like finding good squares for those knights.
Exactly.
And here I'm not seeing them on the board. That knight on b6 is very short on squares and vulnerable. And
in short, you would like this knight to be somewhere where it would have an anchored square. The problem is it's not obvious what a good outpost for the knight might be. I might start with knight c5.
Knight c5 is nice. I was going to say, even on e5, you might run into f4 sometimes. You know, black is going to be happy to see that sometimes because it makes e4 a bit loose.
Right.
But the knights don't have many permanent squares.
Precisely. So I'm kind of fishing a little bit for a square. So here...
I'm wondering if rook c4 is there.
Here I was actually kind of angling for this. Rook c4... Yeah, so knight takes b3, c takes b3, knight takes c4. I'm going to get another pawn.
Yeah, you got some stuff back, but...
So that I found kind of helpful.
Okay, so then I'll play the normal way then. F3?
F3.
But are you doing a similar sacrifice?
What I'm trying to do, let me put it another way.
You're trying to get some squares.
Yeah, for the knight. Knights love anchored squares, and if you can get your knight where it's protected, it's happy. In this moment, the knights, you mentioned yourself, go ahead and try knight e5, and don't be upset when you get kicked away. Not maybe immediately, maybe I would play rook to d1 as before, and the knight in e5 is not satisfied. So I was trying knight c5.
That d4 square does look a lot nicer.
Yeah. So if I do get, for example, something of this nature, I still prefer white because I like the ending, I like the pawns, but at least here I'm feeling I'm getting resistance.
Yeah, you know, we can solidify our knights, and once we're stable, then we can try and slow down the rush.
On a good day, knight f4, h6, you could get some activity while I'm going a4, a5, a6, a7.
Of course.
He might be going rook takes h2. So, but Andy, in my opinion, at this moment, he's got to come up with a very good plan, and he has to play it accurately. King b2, rook d1, a4. You're gone. You're gone.
Be it.
You're gone. So we'll keep an eye on this one. Where shall we go?
Well, anywhere in the world.
Well,
so,
let's go to the game that I found fascinating, Ray Robson.
Yeah.
As I came in, I was I was aghast. Like here, you can see it comes from a Joko piano.
Here we are. Very normal.
Very normal.
Typical stuff.
Joko piano. I just want to get to the position which I found fascinating, this. And I thought to myself,
D3.
How did white blunder so badly
to
get into this?
Yeah.
And this idea that this came from a Joko piano is absurd to me. I mean, it looks like some kind of English backfire. English.
The whole point, my understanding, the whole point going back centuries of the Joko piano is black has this knight that wants to jump in to b4 or d4, and white puts the pawn on c3, says you can't go there, that's why I'm better in chess, that's why white has an advantage, and then you put the pawn on c4 and the knight jumps in, and then you're like, wait a second.
Wait a minute, why did I do this? So I thought, as we were coming on the broadcast, that we were going to be talking about some nice advantages for black. I was very, very surprised by the moves that have been played. Takes. I don't like these moves by Ray Robson one bit. I think after knight d5, white has equalized. Okay.
Well,
So I thought that it's very, very clear to me
Queen A5.
that after Queen A5,
You've got
White
control.
has not equalized, and you've got issues.
So same thing for Black. You've got the nice C6 pawn, stopping Knight B5, Knight D5.
Right.
And you put it on C5.
So
Those squares are open.
yeah, let's see what I thought was the key moves. B takes A3.
Makes
I'm not
sense.
sure if you like it or not. Knight A6, double exclam.
Oh.
Queen takes B7. Why not? That's a second pawn. Knight C5. If you want to take a third pawn, you might have tummy issues.
We move the queen in D4.
Precisely.
It's all my guys.
Hits all the guys. There is, of course,
really go out
also
of it.
queen takes C3 in
Yes.
these. Whenever you're no longer tickling me on A8, but this, I thought, is why you cannot play queen takes C6.
Well,
So-
or maybe even queen B7.
Yes, exactly. I wouldn't recommend it. But after knight
Wondering about
A6,
D4 here.
D4.
Yeah,
Let's
trying
give
and
it a
fight
so.
for those squares a little bit.
Right. So takes.
I'll take back with the knight.
Knight C5.
Yeah.
Now, before we go any further, really, the book to get and just absorb, it's just such a marvelous read, is David Bronstein's Candidates Tournament, Zurich. And David loved to play the old Indian. So the old Indian is, think of the king's Indian. You put your bishop on E7 in an Indian pawn formation, and you go E5 takes D4. So you get the structure.
Yes.
And usually the structure is the pawn is on B2
Of
and the
course.
pawn is on A5.
Yeah.
With the pawn on A3, it's a real struggle for equality for white. It's a real struggle. And you for example, could go queen
gonna
B4.
Maybe disagree
Okay.
because I think here white has achieved a lot with these knights in particular. Like there's knight F5 and D6
Right.
is going to be hanging.
So really, I'm a structure guy.
Yeah.
I love looking at the pawn structures and figuring out where my pieces belong and things of that nature. And for me, I look at this pawn structure and I go, "Ooh," I really, really don't like it for white. So strategically, you're worse. So what you're about to tell me is, but hold on, Yasser, I've got dynamic counter possibility.
Absolutely.
I'm going to save the game because I have tactics.
Yeah, like if my queen were on some square like D2, I think I would be a lot worse off.
Okay.
Because A3 is hanging, but my queen is pretty active on B4. You
Right.
don't really want to take me.
Okay.
And your queen is not so good on A5 either, right? You would much rather be on somewhere like C7 to guard those squares and
Maybe.
come out with your E8.
I'm kind of pleased that I'd be threatening queen takes A3 in a lot of lines.
That's true.
So in my view, what white needs to do, how you need to proceed, is you better put your eggs in some attacking variations. You've got to go knight F5. You've got to attack me. Knight D5. It doesn't
100%
matter.
agree. Yeah.
If the position just remains static, E4 is weak, A3 is weak. So the only question is how good or is how bad is knight F5? And then you have to calculate the consequences of knight F5. And let us have a look-see. Knight takes D6 is what? So I go takes.
I think I will go knight E4. Otherwise, I
Knight
might
takes
have some
E4.
trouble.
Knight takes E4.
And now I have a choice. There is maybe a capture on B7. Maybe a capture on. I'll choose slightly simpler, and I'll take on D6.
Okay. Take on D6. Take on D6.
I'll take back.
Take on D6. Take on E3. Take on E3. Queen a3 or queen?
like-
if I go
I like
queen
C3.
c3, you go queen d4.
Ah, yeah.
And well, it's still nice for me, but okay. That's,
I'm not particularly impressed with the rook endgame. I don't think white's any better, but I think after rook b1, I'll be able to make some draw. Meaning queen takes a3, I think I'll just take your queen and go rook b1,
right.
and I should have a little bit of play.
Yeah, for me, for sure, black is for choice.
Yeah,
that
my pawn structure's split, but
yeah, that's what I'm.
yeah.
So that is potentially you're saving the game there. Knight f5. Let me see what else I can do to prove advantage. Let's see what else I can do to prove advantage. Okay.
Yeah, if you try some queen a3, there are those knight d5 tactics to look out for
Right.
as well.
Right. Yeah. Just throwing it out there as a tantalizing possibility. Okay. So imagine knight takes, knight takes, knight takes, knight takes, knight takes d6. Do I have any trickies there? Hold on just a second. What am I doing? Knight takes,
Okay.
knight takes, knight takes,
I'll try knight
knight
d6.
takes d6, c5, queen a5, queen b4, a b4, knight d6. You're just absolutely fine. So knight takes d6,
Gotta take
queen
back.
takes, rook takes. So this was all, all
Required.
yeah.
I liked your queen
Okay.
c3 move, though. You didn't like queen d4, but I thought maybe queen c3, queen d4, then you take on a3 could be something.
I'll go
But,
for
yeah,
something
rook e8.
very direct. Rook e8.
So for the moment, I do have a pawn, and I think I'd like to bring my queen back to b4.
Okay, queen
Because-
back to b4.
I'm allowed to give up e3 if I fix my structure. If I don't fix my structure, I think I probably need to keep that guy.
Queen a7.
And if I go rook e1, now
Then
we're
we're
talking
in
about a queen endgame.
Where, again, for me, it's two results.
I think so.
Doubled a pawn. I've got a nice majority on the king side. These queen endings, very, very, very likely to be drawn. But for me,
Not fun. Not fun for white.
this game, this position rather, is an example of what I mean by advantage black.
Yeah.
Okay? So I thought as we were coming on the broadcast, we were going to see Ray, kind of grinding Andrew down a bit. And when I saw what he played, I just felt like, oh my God, why did he do this? What?
Yeah. Well, I will
Okay.
say I think white did have some other choices other than ba3. Like we could have tried maybe a rook b1 move. So let's say queen a5.
You mean
in your
back.
line, and
You mean back. Queen a5.
And maybe I don't have to accept such a terrible structure just yet. I can go rook
Rook
b1,
b1.
try and prepare it a little bit.
Knight a6.
And you're just coming to c5.
That's my dream square. You've heard me after 3-4 days of talking about anchored squares for the knight. You can start to appreciate why I love knight c5.
Is the story different now if I try and be greedy and take that b pawn?
Not
And I'm going to have to get creative, I think. I think after queen c6, your d5 move is still a good one.
D5 is good. A takes b2. Where's that knight?
Yeah, ab2, I thought knight d5.
Queen a2.
And it's risky.
Risky. That's a nice.
But I don't want to do this.
No.
Either way, I thought maybe I could try b4 and be clever.
4. Queen's not trapped down there, huh? No, I don't think it is. So knight takes, pawn takes. Again, a nice game for black, but maybe not winning.
Rook
Hold on.
c6 is there. or
Hold
rook
on
b6,
just a
I mean.
second. Rook b1. Do you have a move? So rook b1. Why is rook b1 any good?
I guess your point is after maybe AB, rook takes b2, you can still just go knight a6. And my rook being here on b2 is not any better than it would be in the other line.
As long as I get my knight to c5, I think you're just frankly suffering.
Yeah.
But
like the other line, but I'm not up a pawn.
Yeah, but in this variation, there's nothing to calculate. Queen a5, you're welcome to take on a3. You're welcome to play rook b1.
Yeah.
Heck, you're welcome to play rook e1. But you don't play c5.
Yeah, no, c5's never crossing my mind.
So after they're
C5
going,
is odd.
The knight belongs on c5. When Ray played c5, I thought, oh God. Okay, knight e1, I just don't understand. Help me. Now I would like to say white has equalized, and now you have to show me how black maintains the equality.
Yep, so you got to the key square first. You got to knight d5 before I'm getting to d4.
I do. My dream as white, let me again repeat myself, takes. My Incr square is obviously c4. For example, takes, knight d2, followed by knight c4, rook b1, maybe a4 as well. You're not happy. I'm sorry. This is not what you had in mind.
So maybe we shouldn't take that knight.
Maybe you shouldn't take the knight.
Maybe with the
If
other piece.
It's my turn, by the way. I'm taking this knight. Yeah. Now, this is your problem. If you take like this, I've got to ask you a quick key question. Where is your knight going to go? You've just played c5.
Somewhere.
Like, okay, you're going to drop your rook back like a good guy, you know.
So.
I'm going to play a3. You're going to put your knight on a6.
Yeah, I can toss in a queen a5.
As you wish.
And
my knight is going...
What's your reply to queen a5? You're going to go to the king's side.
What I want to do is very simple. I want to go f4. And with your knight on a6, because...
Well, I'm hoping I don't have to go back there. That's what I'm hoping.
No, you will. You could put your queen on a5, trust me.
Okay.
Your queen on a5 or your queen on d8. Your knight is going back to a6. The question is if I'm going to get in f4 and knight f5 and get you.
Well, I'm aiming to get my knight to c2. That's what I want. You won't let me. I'm sure you won't.
You're not...
and I'll go queen a4.
Okay. You got it.
e3.
Where's your knight going?
Well, okay, you tricked me. You said you were going to go knight h4,
no,
and I was
saying
like,
your knight is going to go to a6. I told you, there's no question your knight's going to a6. Trust me, you wouldn't trust me. And now your knight's going to a6 by force.
Yeah, well, so you tricked me, Yasser.
I didn't trick you.
You have this big arrow on the board. I'm going to bring my knight this way.
Oh, you can't do this. You can't do this.
Yeah.
Okay.
But here as well, it's not so
okay,
easy.
So stop and think.
Yeah.
Stop and think. Don't argue for a moment. What are you defending with?
What am I defending with? I'm defending with my pawns.
A rook.
A rook.
What am I attacking with?
Well, right now, a knight and a rook.
And a queen.
And if you play f4,
a queen.
The point is your queen is.
Furthermore, I'm really threatening breakthroughs, like seriously everywhere. Knight f5, rook g3. So your queen on a5, you can say to me, oh, I'm going to go queen a4 and checkmate, or knight c2 or something like that.
Yeah.
But with your queen on d8, you were defending.
That's true.
Okay. So I think I could play knight d2 and force you to play knight a6, or I can play for the attack. Knight a4. What would you do now?
Yeah, so I'm a little split between going just queen a4 and letting the bad things happen, or playing g6 first. So rook d7 is required, and after rook g3, I guess I'm already losing a pawn.
Yes, I would agree with you. Okay. You are losing a pawn, but I'm hunting bear.
Yes. Maybe queen c2 I can try.
Okay. Queen g4.
I will have to go g6.
And I will take your rook.
You've got my rook.
Oh.
Yeah, king g7. And everything collapses.
It shouldn't surprise you because you were defending with nothing but a rook. I was
trying to counterattack.
Yeah, you got through.
I'm in.
You're hitting c2. You're hitting d3. No, this was overkill.
Yeah.
Because
knight d5 wasn't played, but
right. But okay, I was asking you, how would you equalize with black now?
The saner option seems like bringing our own knight to d4, but our b7 pawn is attacked.
Which is, I'm greedy.
Yeah, so you would take, so maybe I have to defend my b7 pawn and then move my knight, but you're going to take me.
I am threatening to capture on b4.
It doesn't leave me with a lot of options.
No.
All right.
If you were going to tell me that you would seize the defensive with the move knight d7, I would applaud your decision. Because in this case, I'm a pawn up as white, but I think this knight on c5 is so strong, it's giving you great play. You can play rook a4, you can play queen a5, and it's not like I'm playing d4 and I'm kicking you anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm not playing.
Pretty tough to get d4 through.
Yeah, I'm not playing knight h4, the queen on d8, but that is a way where black is playing for the equality and probably has it, by the way. I don't think he's actually even worse. But I really don't like this positional. I don't like this position because, again, the contrast between our knights, black's knight is...
It's got nowhere to go.
It's pathetic. The knight on c4 is hitting d6, and anybody who's ever played a King's Indian, where you've had like a backward pawn on d6, you know, why did I wake up this morning? I'm not happy.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I'll transfer a rook to b3 someday.
You really can't get b5 in either. Yeah. Like it's just no good.
But
so knight e1 is strange.
Yeah, for me, this miss is really egregious. Ray is a very, very, very strong player. He will understand that in old King's Indian defenses, you're not playing c5. You were making a very nice point about the Joko piano.
Yeah.
You said the pawn on c3
guards the squares.
Guards the squares.
And the pawn on
c6, you don't play c4.
Guards the squares.
Guards the squares. So c5.
Well,
knight e1.
I'm just thinking they must have some point. And I'm not good enough to replicate it on the board, but there must be something. Rook a7 I also don't really get.
I'm thinking that the knight needs to come back.
Yeah.
So I would just guard the pawn. And by the way, guarding the pawn with the rook on e6 makes more sense because when the knight comes to d5, trades,
you're
there was
already
always a tempo.
Out of the tempo, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm out of the... Okay, so this is really...
Rook a7 might be about queen a8. So if you play knight d5...
Knight d5...
Yeah, it's going to try and attack a2 somehow, but knight d5 is pretty forcing. Not a lot of time.
The weird part is the knight on e1 is on terrible circuit because where is it going except to c2 on f3, I was going to go to c4.
Heading to b3.
Right. Now I'm less concerned about the knight getting to c4. Probably your best move.
Knight back to And
painful.
Here it is a different story a little bit, because if you go knight back to f3,
For example,
I
yes.
might have some time to try and stop you from getting
Oh,
this.
for sure.
Now,
For sure.
at the risk of getting checkmated again, I think I will try queen a5.
Queen a5.
With the idea of going b5. And
Try it a different
opening
way.
things
Yeah,
up. Or queen d7. I like that a lot better.
Yeah. Don't get yourself checkmated. Just go ahead and go queen d7, rook a8, b5, and don't allow, just keep a steady grip. Exasperating.
Well,
okay.
these are our two leaders.
I mean,
along
rook
with
a7, knight
two other
c2,
leaders.
by the way.
Yeah.
And the other game was Christopher against Grigoriy. That was that rook ending, extra pawn.
Should be a draw. We'll see if Christopher can prove it.
Okay.
But why don't we find out what are they playing for?
Yes,
We have pretty generous prize funds this year. First
big
place
money.
is going to be $5,000 for playing 9 games of chess. Second gets $4,000. Third is $3,000, $2,500, $2,000, and so on and so forth. The total prize fund just for the A group of $23,000.
Thank you, St. Louis Chess Club.
And over in the B group, they're not doing so bad either.
What's happening in the B group prize fund? Who can we womp on for dinner?
And first place is going to be $4,000 for the B group.
Okay.
So not too bad for a 14-year-old playing 9 games of chess, if Andy manages to hold on to his lead.
Absolutely.
Second is $3,000. Then third is $2,500, and on down the list with a total prize fund of $17,000.
Nice. Thank you again, St. Louis, as we see a view of the playing hall. And by the way, big ego points up for grabs here between the two ladies, Begim and Irina.
Yeah,
those two
over in the
ladies
B group.
have been contesting for the first board of the women's Olympic team.
Yeah,
So-
Irina, of course, has had that spot locked down for a while now. But
that is true.
with some new talent coming in,
Exactly.
plenty of competition.
Let's just jump over to Irina's game, because I actually thought that she had played a very nice opening as white. This was, it's funny.
Ooh, this line.
Yes.
Yeah.
Frank Marshall has got his name attached to just about every
7 or
kind
8
of,
openings.
gambits.
Gambits,
Yeah.
especially. Yeah.
And I think he's also had this gambit attributed to his name as well. Against the Dutch, I think this is called the Marshall Gambit.
I believe it.
Yeah.
That one I'm not familiar with. I like the. I'm a fan of openings with funny names. Against the Dutch, you can play Queen D3, and it's the Von Pretzel. But
I didn't know that.
this one
Von Pretzel.
is probably the second most famous Marshall Gambit,
Right.
after the one in the Roy Lopez.
Exactly. And I think Marshall also has, we call it the wing gambit,
Of course.
but I think he also has lines in this variation attributed to him. Takes a3, and away you go. You just play this. We call it the wings gambit because it predates Marshall, but he had some nice ideas. So a lot of openings bear his name, but the guy who was just absolutely amazing was David Bronstein.
Sure.
Okay, so I had as a kid the 5 volumes of the Encyclopedia of Chess Openings. And this stuff is Greek, man. I mean, you got the periodic tables on like every single page, and each of those encyclopedias was like 500 pages.
Oh, yeah.
So there I was, worming my way through these tables.
Walls of text
Exactly.
and tables.
And they would attribute somebody's name to suggestion. It was like Bronstein, Bronstein, Bronstein.
Yeah.
On all 5 volumes, the guy was everywhere. I mean, he's just like, and this variation has waxed and waned in fashion. And at one time, especially in the 1990s, my generation really looked at it greatly. And today, it's a rarity. I mean, you see it occasionally. Exactly. And I don't know why. I mean, I think black still has to struggle.
I will say this bishop e2 move is the better line for white.
Right.
But I've always had a soft spot for knight e2 because for one, I won a game very easily here against an FM who didn't know what was up.
Right.
But after knight a6, the reason I like this line so much is you get to play this great move, bishop f8.
Bishop f8.
Yeah. You just feel good putting it on the board.
Right.
Like I said, bishop e2, probably just a better line.
Right.
But, white's not doing badly here. It should just be a draw. Black can actually maybe force a draw with some lines.
Like
but,
knight e7 and...
Yeah, knight e7, knight d4, and then there's
d4.
this. Yeah.
There's an issue on the d3 and c2 squares.
Eventually you get to some repetition. But,
right. None of this happened.
E2,
bishop e2.
The maybe better way to play.
Right. Now, my understanding is there's actually quite a number of moves for white to consider. Yeah. The game move, which was bishop a5, there's bishop c3, there's bishop d6.
Oh, yeah.
There's, I think queen d2 is even a move here. There's so many possible.
Queen d6 as well is something I've seen before.
Right.
You got to know your stuff with black.
Exactly.
Bishop a5, I think, is started to become the main move, I would say.
Okay. I would say enter with trepidation.
Yeah.
Know what you're doing. Queen d6 with the threat of f3, followed by queen takes c6 check with a double attack. Yep.
By the way, bishop a5 threatened checkmate.
Yes.
So already this game is
puzzle
highly
rush.
tactical.
Puzzle rush. Don't play knight e7 and allow queen d8 checkmate. Yes.
So that's why b6.
Queen d6 with a threat. e5 with the answer.
Queen g6 now defends the c6 pawn.
Right. So bishop. Yes. Sorry. So she played bishop c3 in the game. f3, queen g6, as you say, defends the c6 pawn. Yes, I can win back the pawn, but okay. We're going to get something like that in the game. Knight f3, bishop f5, queen takes e5. And I thought that this is just coming out of the opening with a clean advantage for white.
Yeah.
That is to say, white has the 2 bishops and hasn't compromised either her king or her structure. So I thought that I would not play this as black under any circumstances.
This is what you're hoping for with white. You have to make all these crazy checkmating threats on move 10, but then at the end of the day, you're hoping to get your pawn back and just have the 2 bishops.
Exactly. Now, for me, Irina did a bad thing. And I think you've just heard me explain what that bad thing is. She committed her pawns. She doesn't have to. The one thing that she shouldn't be doing, actually, is committing her pawns. What she should be doing is just playing the position as is.
Yeah, the board is open. The bishops are nice.
Let's go.
Don't need to change any structures.
Right. Don't mess with the structure. Just play your trump. Your trump is your 2 bishops. What happens when you have the 2 bishops, as was explained by Steinitz, is the 2 bishops give your king squares. It's like, what? So what I mean to say, or what Steinitz said, is you've got your king, I've got my king, and your king is in opposition to mine.
Yes.
Okay. But the crazy part is, thanks to the 2 bishops, I'm more often able to win squares. I'm more often able to push you out of the opposition than you're pushing me out of the opposition. So in this position, you just trade the rooks. You bring your king. Oh, pardon.
Yeah, the bishops love the endgame.
Right. You bring your king into the center. You go king, king, and you bully. You just bully black. There's no anchor squares for the knights in these positions, and so the 2 bishops are their own advantage. None of this happened because Irina did something very strange. She played the move b4, and she committed her pawns to b5 and c4, and suddenly black knew what to do. Knight to d6, bishop to e6.
Target the pawn.
Target the pawn. And it's sort of like, well, why did I voluntarily create a weakness? If the pawn remained on b2, I could play b3 whenever you hit me, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, I can understand why she was worried that the knight from a6 would jump to c5, but I would agree with you. I don't think that's a good enough reason to go for this.
Right. And okay, so like...
I liked what you put on the board, rook d8, rook d1.
Right.
And okay, knight c5 might happen, but you can always bring the bishops back.
To e1.
Then push
and then
the knights forward.
Right.
Or push the knights backward, push
the pawns forward.
Go slowly.
Yeah. There's a very, very good book. It was a surprise for me. Adrian Michael Chishin had written a book for the FIDE. So what he was trying to do is say to all the FIDE trainers out there, we're going to create an instruction curriculum. Yeah?
Beautiful.
So that you trainers will have this FIDE approved course, and he got all of these top GMs to devote themselves to little sections of endgame play. And he himself did a treatise on this type of ending. And what he emphasized, and he did a really marvelous job, so big shout out to Adrian, what he did was he emphasized go slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Play the endgames patiently. You don't have to rush. I just wanted to say also, now that I'm looking at it, by the way, oops, excuse me, what was the line?
Yeah, I think you put rook takes d8 on the board.
I did.
And
Rook takes d8, rook
just
takes d8,
d1.
rook takes... If you have played knight c5, pay attention. Pay attention. I don't know if I want to take the knight, but at least I have the
You're
option of
think
doubling
about it.
Yeah, I have the option of doubling your pawns. So, yeah.
I just think this must be what she was thinking about when the move b4 landed, but
Okay.
I mean, this looks very, very nice for white.
It does. Let's see what did happen, because I think Irina spoiled an advantage by advancing her pawns.
b5 also, maybe I would have just played a3 and instead of b5.
Oh, sorry, what?
After c5, this move
A3.
b5, just a3.
A3.
I mean, I don't know why we need to help the knight get back to where it's going. And I can go king b2 and
the
at least
question
support.
is c4. I mean, have we already spoiled a little bit?
Yeah, this is still happening, I guess.
Right? It feels like something got spoiled with this pawn on b4.
I would still go for this rook d8, rook d1 idea, and
let's have a look-see.
Just play.
Let's have a look-see on this one, because this wasn't. This is pretty critical stuff suddenly.
Yeah, must be with the king now.
Yeah, and knight comes to d6. So of course I'm dreaming of the natural bishop e6.
And yeah, I mean, I believe you. I guess I'll go knight d2. I'm not thrilled, but
okay.
And I'm gonna bring my king now slowly, like you said, patiently. King c2, and
King c2.
I'll fix what I've done wrong and try to build back.
Exactly. Same ending with the pawns on b3 and a3. I'm a big fan. Pawn on b4 already. Why did I make again an uncommitted, own mistake, so to speak? Let's just see what did happen, because
we saw this b5 move and
black Begim.
Oh, g5 is a lot too.
Well, what Begim wanted to avoid was bishop f4, and so she played the move g5. I'm just wondering, is bishop f4 something that we should be frightened of? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, it makes this knight d6 plan a little bit more difficult.
Yes.
At the very least.
Yes, agreed. G5, bishop c3, king f7. So at least from Begim's point of view, she knows what's on her agenda. Bishop e6, knight d6, and target this pawn. h4, h6. Any trades on the h file are acceptable for black. She's got the business square covered. Knight to d2. Okay, bishop g6. That move strikes me as a little odd.
Yeah, I would have thought it's time. Just
Yeah,
knight d6.
bring the knight in. Bishop g6, h5, bishop h7, g3, knight d6, a4, rook e8. So for me, the way I look at the position is black is now equalized. Why? Well, gosh, I keep repeating myself. There's an Incr square.
Yeah.
The d4 square has magically appeared, and we can easily imagine knight e6, knight f5, knight d4.
You're there.
And I'm there, and I'm happy. I've equalized. So, knight
it's happening. There it
I've
is.
equalized. This isn't rocket science. Okay, now that move says to me that Begim's now playing for an advantage. Okay, that she's so pleased with her knight on d4 that she's ready to artificially isolate the h5. Sorry, you were about to say.
Wondering about just specifically bishop g4 right away.
Right.
And
I think
no, bishop g6.
bishop g6 is
And then,
probably her concern.
Yeah, there's maybe actual trouble on the e file.
Right, knight e4, yeah.
So f5.
f5. f5, bishop g2, and now we have to ask the salient question. Can I win a pawn? I mean...
King f6, king g5, king h5.
That's one. I'm not pleased with the knight on c7. I think the knight on c7 needs to earn its oats. It's not doing so much there, but maybe knight e8 to f6 is on. I don't know. I'm feeling not
think
so happy.
Black's doing pretty well here.
Yeah, and especially considering the opening. The opening was play on one goal, and now it's become, well,
yeah, not only knight f6, but again knight d6 is something to worry about with
the c4 pawn. Yeah.
It's
okay. Probably if I'm in Irina shoes, I'm thinking of bailing. I'm thinking of moves like a5, trade that, and bringing my rook to a7 and getting counterplay at the cost of an h-pawn.
Yeah.
If I can get my rook to a7.
I'm not sure it's bailing out. We're not going to, the game's not going to end if we do this, but I think this is, you need to get active.
I
like that way
of doing it. Let's jump to the game of Akshot and Alice Lee. When we were coming on air, I was studying this game between Akshot and Alice Lee, and I just, again, pretty much like Ray Robson, I, just wondering if I'm in a parallel universe. I don't understand chess anymore. For me, this was a shocking move. Knight c6 to a5. So our predecessors have advised against moving the knights on the rim, and in fact, they have an expression, knight on the rim is dim.
Yeah, or grim, or
grim.
Chances are slim.
Don't do it.
Yeah. You don't necessarily have to rhyme.
But on the other hand, knights in the center, aha! That's what you do as black, is you centralize your knight. You put your knight on e4, and after a trade on e4, you go bishop takes e4. And our predecessor said, I'm neutralizing the bishop. When I can put my bishop on e4, I neutralize the bishop on g2. Black's perfectly okay. So when Alice played the move knight a5, I was scratching my head.
Speaking of knights in the center.
You move to the side, I move to the center. And this move, by the way, might come with some nasty threats. Be careful. The queen isn't actually so brilliantly placed.
It's not
on the a6 square.
Not great at all.
Yeah. So knight came to e5, and troubles are brewing.
Yeah. Knight e2. That's
knight e2.
I thought for sure the idea was to
knight v5.
jump
right?
in. But
like what are we missing? I don't see what we're, knight e8.
Knight e8
is the only way
together,
because you can't leave this guy hanging.
Right.
And you can't give this fork. But even this is not a lot of fun.
It feels like something's about to slip.
Yeah, it could be.
If it's not there, it's not there.
Well, you know, my bishop on d2 is no great shakes. Let me be frank. And I could have done this in a better way. I could have played knight c7 at once, forcing knight takes e7, and then play bishop takes a5, forcing rook takes a5. So forgive my
but
nonchalance.
you end up here, and okay, rook c7 looks...
feeling like, you know, I've got an edge. Maybe Akshot felt that knight e2 to f4
could be more.
Could be a lot more. Let's see what happened. Knight c6.
It's well.
Sometimes you have to say.
Yeah, this is a sign of maturity. It's
right.
Like,
I made a mistake.
I
made a mistake. Let me take my move back, and we are here. Now, this is just bad news for Alice. So,
I mean, of course, Alice was dreaming of getting the knight to c4 to contest the knight on e5.
Right.
But the details just don't work out this time. So I had to go back.
In this particular case, it's very obvious who's the one with the authority. I get to play a5, a6. If your pawn were on c4, we could have a discussion about who is better. With your pawn on c6, we're not having this discussion. We're just wondering how bad this is for Alice. The queen will come to a3. The pawn will get to a6. Maybe the bishop will get to f1. And this is suffering. This is just, unless I'm blundering rook b8, no.
Yeah, I mean, it's not much of a blunder. You win a pawn.
yeah, at least you get, you know, knight to e4. I take on e7, but no, I mean, it's not. This is easy for Akshot.
Yeah, knight c6 also isn't, or knight takes knight isn't maybe totally necessary after queen d6.
Oh,
you do have to think about a whole slew of moves. Like you could just sit on the position and play, I was going to say rook c5, you could play a5, you could play queen b7, a lot to think about.
Well, be careful, rook c5, knight takes e5.
Okay, and that would be not so good.
Not so good. A5, sure, that's a decent move, but
you're worried about knight e5, I guess. And
you're giving me some hope. Yeah. I will put it like that. I'm not. Maybe I'm losing anyway from wonderful tactical point of view, but I just feel like
I don't see the details here.
Yeah,
I mean, I liked knight c6.
It's so straightforward. It's good.
Yes.
It's just good. It's a good position. White is sitting on excellent squares. I always do this. I constantly do this. I constantly compare, shop and compare. My bishop on b4, your bishop on g7.
Not good.
Yeah. My pawn on a4, your pawn on c6.
Yeah, not good either.
I don't think my queen on b2 is any great shakes, but queen a3, you know, let's just put a move on the board. I'm not saying it's a good move. I'm not saying it's a bad move. I'm just putting a move on. Queen on a3 suddenly starts, you know, like, hey, you know. maybe my queen would be more effective elsewhere, but my knight on f4, your knight on f6, I can easily see where I'm swinging. I got 2 anchor squares, you've got 1, I can shut you down. So it's all one-sided. Let's move on.
Has Akshat decided on something here? So knight c6 is on the board. And I think Akshat's still taking some time. Knight f4, queen d6.
Yep. And this is the moment of the knight c6.
The question is knight c6 or something tactical, but don't think it's required.
Yeah. This is where Akshat fails. And it's not just...
He hasn't failed yet.
This is where he fails. He thinks too long about a good variation. So he was playing Raja, I think, in the round 1. He just won a pawn out of the opening.
Yeah.
You got this great gift. And then he just was spending 10 minutes each and every turn to make moves, and then he got into a position where he had no time, and he decided to force a repetition of pawn up.
This is true.
Yeah. So in this position, you don't have to overthink. You just play what your hand naturally wants you to do. Knight c6,
Take the
before,
knight,
and
control
play,
the dark squares.
and probably he's made this decision. He's probably spent 10 minutes on this one.
He spent 10 minutes on knight f4 at the very least.
Yeah.
And
so again, time management, I want to say, is his fail.
Yep.
Join the ranks of Ray Robson.
we'll see if it comes back to bite him here.
Exactly. And let's see. We're going to make a very quick tap on
what
Andy's game, because when we left it, we thought
knight c5 was
we thought
important.
Andy had to find some very, very consequential moves very quickly before we do what we did.
Seems like he's rising to the challenge here.
Okay, knight c5, b3, rook c7.
So we were talking about that e5 move coming in, but hasn't gone for that just yet.
Now, okay, that's very ambitious move. I must say that for myself, when I'm in these positions where I know, there's you're relying on tactics to save yourself. I cover things up. Rook c1.
Defend.
And then a4, a5, and I'll come back and bite you over there. Rook c1. Now maybe he analyzed this, White analyzed this, and thought, I'm winning.
So yeah, this is a piece sacrificed back, but
and
Black was up the piece to start with. So now White with the extra pawn. And, okay, the rooks are a little scary.
Okay, yes. Here, the desirable, I just wanted to point out that Andy did not have the desirable rook c2. In this case, I'm threatening perpet.
Yes.
But it's White to play.
Check, and check, and checkmate.
Thanks to the pawn on g5. So there was no choice in the matter. I can't play the desirable rook c2. Andy has played rook takes e3, and we're up to date, rook takes. So it looks like White just wins. So this was a good move, rook d1.
King d8 leads to mate, so king f8 lets you take all my pawns with check. I say leads to mate, it's not a very long path.
I always like Walter Brown. Walter Brown had a very strange accent. So it was like this Australian, New York, West Coast accent.
It's quite the mix.
Right? And he would say, yeah, King G8, immediately. I give you immediate mate. Immediate. So, King F8, avoiding immediate mate.
Immediate mate, yeah.
Immediate. Rook takes f7.
Yeah.
He was a very funny man.
I mean, is there any type of perpetual resource that
No.
black can aim for?
No,
It's just
not at all. This is a threat of mate in 1.
your king's going to come to b4 if I give you a few checks, like rook e1, rook e2, rook e3, but you just go to b4.
Yes.
At the end. And if I go rook takes f3,
I think
I'm
that
going to be
might-
down a lot of pawns.
It might be required, though. I mean, rook takes f3, check, rook f8, and not all rook and pawning games are drawn, especially those where you're like 2 down or 3 down or whatever the number is. This looks sad. So it looks like Andy, our tournament leader, is going down.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to
So-
fault him too much.
After that rook d1 move, though, how bad would it have? So I liked what Andy was doing. Rook c7, rook hc8 maybe takes a little bit of time.
I think e5 was necessary.
Yeah, well, I was thinking maybe e5 after this rook d1 move even. Maybe it's not too late to
Exactly.
to get those anchor squares.
Okay, exactly. So e5,
And
rook,
knight to e6.
exactly. And in this case, I would question severely, why are you doubled on the c5?
Yeah, fair enough.
If it was your turn and your rook was on h8 and your rook was on c8, so you would get 2 turns, you would absolutely want to play knight f4 and here. So if we go back to this moment and we were just following
e5 immediately then.
E5
was
immediately.
a better way.
king b2, it's almost for sure you just want to get knight e6, and it's almost for sure you want to play rook d1, rook, but let's say a4 is much more concrete, right? It's almost for sure you want to play knight f4, give me this guy. Now here you have a problem. If you do take,
There's a new square.
there's a new square for the knight, and the fight will flare anew. I mean, I agree that that pawn on a6 is terrifying. B pawn is coming up the board, but this is potentially a 3-result game, right? So, but what I want to say is that after a4, if you did decide, no, I'm not going to give up my bishops, I'm going to play here, this is how I get counterspiel.
Yeah.
You know, it's not much, but hey, and sometimes, you know, you got to play the hand that you're dealt.
I mean, I don't know that it's that little. Like
Exactly,
that's a game.
exactly.
But so yeah, maybe this doubling up is where it all
Andy,
went wrong.
yeah, where Andy went wrong, in my view, is he misplaced. He put his hope that things were turning out well here, but unfortunately for him, he's in a situation where, oops, excuse me, I don't know if yeah.
Yeah, they're in this endgame.
Yeah,
And,
it's over.
That means, well, Brewington did have a loss earlier, so he'll just improve to 50%, but that means that the other 2 chasers in the B group are having a very important game. That's Harshit Raja and Josiah Stearman.
Okay, I don't know if we saw Josiah's game. Shall we have a look? Where?
Yeah, up against Stephen Zierk, and I think it was pretty interesting to, way up at the top.
At the very top. Yeah, there he is.
Yeah, we did see
this
this.
was
This
this-
was the knight takes f6 line.
Yeah,
and
this is where White
gotta
made
say,
a very
I don't-
dangerous choice.
I don't think I get it. This is one of the ones I don't think I get.
It's a very dangerous choice that White made.
I was looking at that d6 square and thinking, what's the deal? Black's just going to take the pawn.
Yes, I'm all for it, actually. Takes. I assume White wants to play rook takes h3. Let's say,
But you know,
where do I want to put my queen?
not all pawns are equal, and I think d7 mattered a little bit more than h3 in this case.
I would for sure agree with that.
Still some activity though.
The desirable, okay, I want to keep queens on the board because I always shop and compare Whose king is safer? In my humble opinion, it's not even close. Black's king is much safer. It's not even close. And this pawn on c4 heading to c3 and c2. So if we just continue, I'm not saying this is a good variation, and it might just lead to bad things happening. We can see that White's king is the one that's far more vulnerable, and that's why I want to trade. I want to avoid trading queens as Black. Queen takes d7, rook takes h3. How else could I avoid trading queens? Because it's a little bit cramped. Let's say I play rook c8.
Yeah, I like that move. Just sort of keep the back rank defended.
I wanted to play c3 though. Okay, I'll tell you what. No, I think this is I'm overplaying my hand somewhat in this case. c3.
Yeah,
Rook
I
h8
think
check.
Rook h8.
Oh, sorry. Rook takes c3?
I was just going to take back and
Fair.
and play from there. I'm hoping that...
Yes.
Okay, even trading the rooks here, I think, is maybe progress for White. And then this f5 pawn, it is just the one pawn, but I think it's going to give you some trouble if we manage to steer closer to an endgame.
Yeah, okay. So for me, I like Black, and I think this combination is boomeranged. That it was a faulty combination to go into the two minor pieces.
Yeah, because, I mean, his position was very pleasant, and then...
You traded a clear advantage for a murky, arguably...
Hoping to consolidate.
Right. Indeed. I like Black's position here. We're going to jump back to the A group for a moment. We're going to catch up with Andrew and Ray. Just a second. That's... because we left it lots of head scratching from yours truly.
White just refuses to put the knight on d5.
Right. Knight c2, knight c6, rook f1.
Okay, I'm back to
Andrew, what are you doing?
not knowing anything.
Right. Knight to d4, king h7, knight to d7. So one of the things that I like what Ray has done with the knight, I don't like his rook, by the way. Again, I think that rook should probably be on, I don't know, a6. But one of the things I like what Ray has done is he's made it almost verboten to take, because my knight's going to have a beautiful anchor square once that trade has happened.
The knight on d7 ready to jump to c5 or f5.
Right.
And
Okay,
now Ray's
knight to e6.
fixing the rook.
Okay.
Seems like he's checking the things off the list here. And
Right.
meanwhile, rook f1, king h2, other rook to b1.
Yeah.
It
I
feels
think
not so coherent.
You have been wanting to play queen a5 for quite some time. Once the knight is on e6, and once the rook is defended as well, and there's no knight f5 and rook g3 that what was killing, then the queen can go, in search of food.
Yay!
Yes. But I like Black. I don't understand the last few moves. And is time a factor? For Ray, this is unbelievable.
This is like having 3 hours on the clock.
This is like, wait a minute. I mean, I have a sighting. It's so rare, it should be noted. Ray's up on time.
Yeah.
Like, just a second. Hold on. Let me put that in my log book for the tournament. All right. Slight advantage for Ray. Let's see if he can make it work for him.
Where are our other leaders at? So Christopher, you and Grigoriy Oparin have officially drawn that rook endgame.
Yeah. When we left it, we kind of thought that maybe it wasn't.
Oparin could try something, but okay, 2 versus 1 at the end of the day, it's not a lot.
Yeah, there wasn't much going on, and Christopher held it rather comfortably, I would say. With that draw, it does mean that Ray has a window, could climb through it to take a clear lead. This is Benjamin Bach. I don't think we've seen Benjamin's game for some time.
Have not.
And what have
This
we
looks like
got?
one of those weird Catalan lines. I don't know.
Yeah, very weird where black sacrifices a pawn, but
Has gotten it back now.
after a
we
long sequence.
Find
even-
ourselves here.
Yeah, we find ourselves here. Knight endings, the rule of thumb is they're very similar to king and pawn endings. I'm slightly happy with white because my king is more active than your king. It basically is that. If the game is a draw, I wouldn't dispute it that much, but I'm happy that I'm white, I think.
Yeah.
It just feels like my king. I'm not saying that f5 check is some massively winning threat, but good kings can crawl in.
Can build slowly,
Right.
h3, g4, and try to get in there somehow.
For me, the move king g6 is a quizzical one, and I would ask, why are we doing that? Maybe, I mean, for me, I would want to
if
play
you can play
e5
E5,
and king e6.
You want to.
Exactly.
If you can, you definitely want to, especially because
Another way I would maybe want to play it, f5, king, and if I could get all of those moves
seems
in.
like the safer way to do it. 'Cause
King g6. So let's have a look-see. Maybe his intention is just to play f5.
maybe f5, king f6 is very similar.
Right. One key difference, I would say, is it's not so easy to engineer e5. So in the moment,
5 check.
it's my issue. If you give me a free hand, king c4, king c5. In other words, if you play g5, king c4, g4, or h4, king c5, I'm there. If you play knight to e7, I still don't allow you.
King d4 stops it.
Yeah, that's what I meant about the king activity relative to one another. Slight advantage, Benjamin?
So the question now is, why do you spend your remaining 3 minutes thinking about playing king e4?
Because you're Benjamin Block.
Right. Just put the king on the square.
I know.
Put king e4.
Exactly. Ben, like Ray, is another one of these time trouble addicts. I know it's not a polite word, but it's like he can't be cured. Regardless of the position, simple, complicated, he's going to get into time trouble. Why he doesn't play king e4 is a mystery. He could be thinking about king e4, king d3 and
king
e4.
f5.
But, no, I think the problem is
Oh, king f5, there is like...
f3,
Yeah, okay.
h3, and now h4, I can keep you at bay.
Battled back.
Push you back.
Okay.
Okay, but h4, with the threat of king f5 and king g4, or hg, I'm getting in there. Be careful. And why Ben spending so much time on this position?
Well, he has moved.
He did. Okay. What did he do?
Moments ago.
What?
King d3.
Okay, he's
not sure.
justifying king g6. The move h5 plays itself.
I'm not sure what he didn't like about king e4. It seems like, okay, maybe you don't get through, but it at least asks some questions.
Maybe Benjamin is thinking he can play the move knight e3 and keep the king at bay. Because at this moment, I'm thinking, okay, I better start trying to equalize.
Okay. Yeah,
I started getting nervous
this
here.
knight e3, but on the other hand, that does open the window for e5 again.
Yes.
To try and activate the knight.
So, okay, let's try to delve into the mind of Benjamin for a moment. E4, HG, king h5.
King h5 or e5 to start as well is also. But let's go king h5, and then I will play this.
G5.
Oh, g5. Okay.
Just to see.
Getting h4 is the square.
Yes, yes. On a good day, 97, knight g6. Again, one of those things I always look for is weaknesses.
Yeah,
Like here are
take your pick.
Take your pick. E4, G3, and black has a beautiful anchor square, knight E5. Knight on E3 is playing a pacifist, a passive role. Let me just refresh because again the time clocks are 43 versus 1.
And Andy Woodward, I think, has lost that game against Brewington Hardaway, so that opens things up in the B group as well.
There was this great story told to me by Bent Larson. So there's a very, very strong grandmaster from the Czech Republic. His name was Jan Smekel. And Jan had been in the world's top 10 for probably about 6 years. So he was really, really, really a top grandmaster. He had a problem. He loved time trouble. And more or less, Bent had 45 minutes to time control of move 40 and 1 minute for Jan Smekel and no increments.
Yeah.
This was the old days. So
you're really blitzing it.
So there's Jan with the foot shaking, right? Like this.
Yep.
And Bent's like thinking. And Bent used all of his time, and both players might, and Jan made his 40th move was literally his flag was at full mast. Teetering, and eventually it was a draw. But what Bent loved was that during this 1 hour where Bent was trying to figure out ways of making Jan's life difficult, the foot was shaking the whole time, and then immediately when they made the time control, the guy ran like bolt to the bathroom. He had been holding an hour.
Gotta stay there. Gotta keep it together.
Gotta keep it together. And Ben just loved that. It was just like, okay, we'll keep an eye on this one. Andrew, Ray Robson.
And okay, takes an F4 is happening, but maybe we should check in really quickly.
Please.
There's one game we haven't seen. That's the one between Awonder and Theodorou.
Awonder and Theodorou. Where is Awonder?
Should be third on the list.
Third on the list. Here.
And
okay.
yeah, both of these players on 50%.
Right.
But with that draw on the Christopher Yu game, a win here could also catch them up.
I've realized by watching this tournament that Nikolas is just weird.
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. He just does this every day, and somehow he gets great sleep at night and does it.
He loves playing strange, bizarre, provocative chess, and it's paid off for him. He didn't like. If you look at the position, he didn't end up in dire straits, but I was like, I didn't like the way he was playing. Awonder has 13 minutes, and here's talking about weaknesses of myself. My weakness was I was a pawn grabber, and very, very, very often in my career, sadly for me, is I cashed in my chips too early. I didn't realize how powerful a position I had. Here, I can see good moves for white. Rook b7 is a good move. Queen takes h7 is a good move. Rook b1 to e1 is a good move. And almost, 9 times out of 10, I was taking the pawn.
Queen h7.
Queen h7. And so, I would oftentimes overlook how powerful a move like rook b7 is. I mean, I'm threatening bishop e6, God knows. But look, I'll tell you what I would do. I'd take a pawn.
So, what's the story after queen takes f4?
A queen h5 check.
H5 check. And, okay, that looks pretty good, right?
Yeah, g6, queen h7 check, king g8, rook takes. I'm a pawn up.
Yeah.
Okay. So, You're not doing that. You're probably not doing this because this is too easy for me. This is just I have 2 pawns and a naked king.
Okay, the bishop's also hanging, right? You can just take on f5.
Oh, even superior. Yes, of course. Yeah, much superior. Pardon me. What was I thinking? Hold on. No, the queen is on c4, not on d5. Sorry, brain infarction. Queen takes h7. Probably you have to play rook h8.
That makes sense. Got to stop queen h5 check.
Rook h8. Queen is coming back. Let's say to c2. And
now if I take the bishop,
now if you take the bishop,
rook e1.
Yep. If rook a6, queen e3, knight e5 check. Good grief, I'm not sure what I like.
It's all crazy.
Once again, I want to say my weakness as a chess player is that I would go down this trapdoor. I would be playing queen takes h7. Pardon me, I would be analyzing queen h7, rook h8. How do I take the pawn? How do I maintain the pawn? I know maybe it's a 2-result game. Here, I think a lot of other players would be playing.
Other ways. I like the rook b7, even that rook e1 move.
Exactly. A lot of other players would say, yes, sir. You know, you pawn grabber. How could you not play a move like rook b7?
Yeah, on the other hand, I don't see the knockout after we trade the queens.
Queen takes, rook takes. You do have a big threat.
There is a threat, but I don't see the way to get the knight in the game. So if I play a move like rook fd8, just trying to stop that.
Bishop to d6, stopping. And thanks to the back rank, I probably need to make some liberating move.
And okay, the position's nice. The position's nice for white, but
I'm kind of sitting. I'm not 100% sure how nice it is. I mean,
yeah, rook d7.
Rook d7 keeps the game alive. So in the current position, just a second, sorry.
Yeah, Awonder has chosen something.
By the way, I think he played
rook b7.
Takes rook b7 and bishop d6.
Well, we do have a guest here ready to talk about his victory against the tournament leader, Andy Woodward, and that is Brewington Hardaway.
Yeah.
So let's get him hooked up in the studio,
okay,
and we'll talk about that game.
I'll bring up his victory over Andy in a moment. So let me see where, oh, that's the, yep. Hi, welcome to studio. Not at all. I'm just going to bring up your game. So this is Ray's position, and where are you? There you are. And Brewington, welcome to studio. Today, you're playing the tournament leader. How was it?
Yeah, I was very nervous before, and because I just lost a game before, like round 3, like theoretically drawn in game, I made a mistake and lost. So,
oh dear.
And playing Andy, who's very strong and talented, I was very nervous, and honestly, I wasn't very confident at first. But,
right.
And he surprised me in the opening, and
let's take a look. In the opening, where was the surprise?
Yeah, he never played e6 before, like ace, like knight or, and he never plays e6.
He always plays like e5,
yeah, e5
or g6. Like but e6 caught you a little bit off guard.
Yeah, I mean, I knew what I was doing, but I just didn't expect him to play it.
Right.
And his time usage was really surprising. Like, if you see this next move, like, you can look at the time, he spent 30 minutes.
Whoa.
So I was a bit confused. I was like, is he trying to like bluff me and like he's secretly in prep, or he just doesn't know what he's doing?
Right.
I really couldn't tell. So I was also spending a bit of time just because I was a bit like, I was a bit confused, but yeah, I just played natural moves. And
Now, G5 for me is the most natural moves. I'm assuming B4 is a consideration.
yeah,
as
B4
well?
I thought knight B5,
Knight
knight CB5.
Knight CB5,
Yeah.
right? Exactly. So you give up the knight and
I take B5 first.
take B5 first with the
Yeah.
tempo, and
Then he moves his queen anywhere, and then like queen C6, let's say, then
Yeah.
takes.
takes.
Yeah, I mean I think white's just this just looks very good for white. Yeah.
Agreed. So he has played after just a second G5, knight to D7, and then A3. Chill. Bishop B7, Queen D2, and I was explaining to Caleb because your game attracted us. I was explaining to Caleb that in the 1990s, my generation, we struggled to understand the Sicilian sacrifice on B5 because it comes in the Najdorf, it comes in Schevenigans. There's so many Sicilians where white gives up a knight for 3 pawns, and under what circumstances they were favorable for one player over the other. And the situation that you got, I explained that in my generation, we thought that you have an advantage here, right now, in this moment. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought the same. So like when I went knight B5, I was trying to recollect if this was the right move, and then I didn't see what else I was gonna do. So, and I knew that this was an idea, and I thought that's hard to play for black, and I thought white should be a bit better. Like I'm not exactly sure, but
Yeah.
just very comfortable for white compared to black.
Exactly. And for us, the move knight c5 was good, this position. And for ourselves, I don't know about yourself, what you were thinking about this position, but we really thought that this was a critical moment for Andy, and he really, really had to play e5.
Yeah, I thought the same. Yeah, e5.
E5. So the idea, at least, is that he's struggling to get some counterplay based on knight e6 and knight f4 and h6. And when he didn't do this, it was play on one goal. You share the same idea?
Yeah, I thought he was going to go e5, and I could also tell by his body language that he just didn't feel comfortable in the position.
Right.
So I started to gain some confidence.
Right. I think you played f3, rook c7. I thought was what was your intention after e5, by the way? If you don't mind me.
I mean, I wasn't really sure what to do here. Like maybe king b2, a4.
King b2, right? All, yeah, I mean, you have a number of natural moves. King b2, a4, knight e6. But I mean, black really doesn't have a choice, and he really needs to play knight f4 and h6. And I was just a little curious if you were going to take on f4 or not. Like, I don't know.
I mean, I don't want to give him the e5 square.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly. So
if I always went like bishop f1 or bishop c4.
okay.
Like, let's say like a4.
A4. Knight f4.
Knight f4, maybe bishop c4.
Okay. And h6, yes.
Yeah.
This was more or less our main line that we had focused on. And we thought, okay, we like white,
It's very
but at
double-edged, though.
least he's putting up some, he's pushing the ball back at you. You know?
Yeah, like what he did, he was just kind of like sitting there, and then I
Right.
felt like he was.
Right.
I could just play simple moves, and
Now, did you see his sacrifice at the time he played rook d1? You
yeah,
anticipated?
I considered it, but I just thought I was losing, and like
and you were right. As
and then
it turned
also
out.
you can see once again with the time, like when he played knight a4,
Yeah.
he spent
spent a lot of
24
time.
minutes, and also like I just thought it didn't work. Like it's like let's keep going. Like knight a4 takes rook a4, rook c2. Now here I was pondering if I should go king b1 or king a1, but I just thought king a1 and king a1. There's no like extra checks with the rook on c8. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Makes sense. No, I liked your king a1, and
I think it's just
especially
winning.
this, and it's just winning. Did he say after the game what he? I mean, obviously he spent a lot of time on knight a4, but it's not clear what he might have missed.
He told me he didn't think about king a1. I think
Ah.
like he thought king b1.
He thought that maybe
Yeah, I'll go
after
king b1.
king b1, he has more tricks or something in the position. Still looks great for you, I must say.
Yeah.
I don't doubt it. You say, oh man, it's so bad losing a game that you knew you had a draw, and you just. How do you overcome that?
Well, I just thought like I made multiple mistakes. I made one mistake on the board, but I made multiple mistakes with my time management.
Right.
Which resulted in me not having enough time to like think through the end game, and
Gotcha.
when I went HG5, and then it was just lost. But
right.
My opponent played well, so I mean,
hey,
what can
tip
you do?
your hat. Sometimes that's what you do. Where's home for you?
I live in New York.
New York. Where in New York?
In the Bronx.
Okay, because Maurice would say Brooklyn in the house in the Bronx. Thank you for joining us. Good game. Well done. And hope to see you again.
Thank you.
All right. We are going to just take a look around the horn. X shot, by the way. Alice Lee, draw. Wow. Alice somehow managing to save a very awkward position. Queen A3, look at this move. She played E5. What a move. E5. What a response.
Well, when your position's bad, you got to try something. And
right.
Again, maybe you were talking about Akshot and time management. Maybe he didn't leave himself enough time to figure it out.
Exactly. Something very strange here about this, because we think that white has a big advantage. Stop. Then we go, we're so happy we have a big advantage. What can our opponent possibly do?
Break in the center.
E5. You're not playing C5. So with the queen on B2, however temporary it is, breaking in the center is going to be a little bit harder. So we start with the move A5. If you try, as in the game, to break in the center, I can put my bishop here, and this pawn...
It's getting close.
It's almost a touchdown. It's almost a touchdown. And so you have to be, I'm saying, keep a watchful eye on the counterplay. I think this was a little lackadaisical, Queen A3, and wow, that's a great relief for Alice. The bishop on F5 wasn't really doing anything.
And the big difference is this bishop on G7, right?
Yes.
Now it's
suddenly,
attacking a weakness instead of
yes.
just being shut out of the game.
Exactly. We would have a pawn on E3 and the old expression biting on granite. This looks a little bit compliant. It's quite possible that action
now it's
was
just over.
Yeah, was in a little bit of time trouble at this moment, and a draw was soon agreed.
I did have a
big
thought
save
on the Brewington game where
Please.
He was mentioning Andy expected king B1, and I think if you remember, there was this line where the king ran up to B4. So it takes king B1, let's say.
Right. This is where Andy might have.
Yeah. I agree. White still has more options, but if you follow the same line, now I can go rook B8 check. And if you're stuck on A1, now after rook takes E3 in this same line, I will have this at least threat of perpetual check.
Right.
I can also go to E8 in this line as well, because I moved my rook off that nasty square. No, I meant instead of king F8 after...
Oh, I beg your pardon.
Yeah.
So
instead of king... Yeah,
oh, sorry.
One more, king
I'm
E8.
going to... King E8, check. You don't have to go to F8. You can go to D8. Yeah. You're not checkmated.
And there is this rook E1, rook E2 idea now.
Exactly.
But so king A1, a nice find.
Yes.
I don't know if it was required. White has some other ideas, but
for sure,
at least makes the job a lot simpler.
It does, and I really liked it just visually because of what you're pointing out. The rook on C8 is actually
a detriment.
Yes, that's exactly the way of putting it, because in the game, check, you can't go to D8. You have to walk into F8, and then he's munching all the pawns with a gain of time.
So a nice save by Alice as well. And Let's see. Maybe we haven't checked in on Melik and Raja. I think
Yes.
that's our last game to see in the B group.
It was out of the opening. Melik has actually won a pawn, and he was holding on to it when I left it. His last move was rook f3, c3. I think white is. Whoa, that.
Well, why not
that
b3?
was, I guess bishop c1.
Bishop c1 must be it, but
Wow.
whoa.
Yeah, that walking in. Dang. Okay. Draw? No.
No draw, says Raja.
Black is fighting for the win. Whoa. I thought
This is-
Melik was the one who was just enjoying life.
Things got crazy.
Whoa. Okay, my mind is being blown. I want desperately to play rook to d7 check.
Of course.
The desirable rook d3, unfortunately, has an issue. That was why he had to play king d5. Okay, got it.
Sensing some danger here for
Right? For who's playing for the win?
maybe everybody.
Maybe everybody.
Now
I
I think black might have gone a couple steps too far with some of this.
Right? Yeah, that perpetual seemed like a fine save.
Good end to the game.
Good end, but not any longer. I think Melik is enjoying things. I'm going to just check in on Irina and Begim for a second.
Of course.
By the way,
A5,
A4,
A6, rook A1, rook A7. Okay.
But look what Begim has done. While White has gotten her rook to A7, bravo, 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 these knights are just like, dang, those are magnificent looking steeds. Now,
Pretty
question
ponies.
is, who's on move? Oh, I thought if it's black to move, black would be eager to play bishop. Remember my weakness.
Of course.
Ray Robson has his weakness, time trouble. I have my weakness, pawn grabber. Bishop f7 takes h5 would have been on my agenda. Rook d6 is what Begim has played.
Yeah, it's maybe just a different move order. Bishop f7 isn't going anywhere, and
That
this
was
rook defends d4 and b6 and h6.
right. Rook a4, kind of an indication that Irina is recognizing that she should have never created the weakness. One of the best moves that White could play right now is b4, b5, b3, illegal. But I think this is rook a4 might be a prelude to knight to b3 to try to get rid of these oppressive knights.
I have kind of a hard time believing that's gonna solve the problems.
Mm-hmm.
Like let's say bishop f7,
Okay. What do you want from me? Knight b3.
and maybe I can play knight e to f3, maybe knight d to f3. I'm not sure which one, but I'll start with the e knight.
Okay. For me, the knights were just so good.
Yeah.
I'm just very happy to get rid of one of them.
Okay, I'll take back with the knights.
Okay. Hakasito. Now that I've gotten rid of that very, very powerful knight.
I'd rather not step into the pin, so I will try king e7.
Okay. Now, big question for you. Are you willing to go into a bishop ending?
A bishop ending. I think so. I know I said I don't want to step into the pin, but I don't really like the e6 square either, so I think I will go king f6 here.
Okay.
And I just want to be up a pawn.
Understood. It's not so easy for you to just be up a pawn, though. Let's see. Unfortunately, once again, the desirable bishop g2, bishop d5, my pawn on c4 is the weakness. Boy, I've got to scramble as white to figure out a road to equality, if there is one. I'm not saying there is. If there is one or not, let's have a look-see. I'll take not the desirable move.
Take with the rook.
That I want. King here, so I'm eyeballing rook b7.
Yeah, I think I have time to snag the pawn.
Take it.
And I will have to play defense for a little bit.
Okay. So trying my best to restore the material equality.
Yes. Okay, king g5.
Okay. King to g5. Bishop to f.
I'll step to g6, bishop g6.
Right, and now trying my best.
Ah, this way.
Trying my best to create some counterplay. Not saying that I'm successful, but for...
Yeah, okay, I'll go rook d6. And maybe rook f6 is something I can do.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay, at least I've got some activity. I mean, it's like, whew. For a moment there, I was just really afraid that I was going to be passively tied up and I would just be reacting for the rest of the game. Here, my rook on c6 is kind of disturbing a little bit.
Can I go bishop e8 and then maybe back to f7 and try and get a grip on the position again? Yeah, I'll go to f7. I like that active diagonal attacking the c4 weakness.
Okay. Just to be obstinate.
Well, my question eventually, with the bishop on f7, I'm wondering, someday I might think about taking.
Sure, and we'll think about a dream of a passed pawn. It's not nice for Irina. The problem for her is black's pieces are simply excellently placed, and her move rook a4, it indicates to me that she wants to play knight d2. Good or bad, the pawn on h5 is a weakness, and we're going to see, I think Begim is going to do her best just to play bishop f7.
Yeah.
Take the pawn, more or less like what you try to do. Take the pawn, reassert the current position, and then go h5, h4, and yay, touchdown.
Home free?
Home free. So definitely Begim for choice. Irina in a little time trouble, 3-1 time advantage for Begim. And for Irina, she had lost in round 3, right?
This is true.
So this is from a very nice opening to a very unpleasant ending. Not a good transition.
This b4, b5.
Yeah, not a good transition. Shall we take a look at the other games?
Yeah, I think we've seen just about all of them now, so we can go to whatever
just wanted to
strikes
check in
interest
with the Josiah versus Stephen game, because that was the two pieces. And remember, we were talking about, the vulnerable king and, like, what should we be doing here? Queen takes d7, rook takes.
Did c takes and takes?
b6. b5, I think, was also interesting, but b6.
Well, it looks like Stephen ended up putting that knight on b5 with these nice ideas at c3 again.
Yes. Nice ideas of c3 again. It looks like, no, I mean, it's clearly, the initiative is all in black's favor. In fact, I would be shocked if this position wasn't simply winning for black.
This bishop on f4 really holds things together, I think.
Exactly. Knight to d6, check. Somehow that king on a6 is actually very attractive.
Yeah, the knight's a good defender.
That's a big success.
Yeah,
trade
felt
of
like
queen.
White was about to get mated. And now
that was a very, very, very big success to trade queens. Oh boy.
On the other hand,
which makes me think, why didn't he play rook c6?
Rook c6, still queen d5, and how do you stop it?
No, in this particular case, I'm trying to avoid trading queens,
Well,
right?
I thought rook g7.
Oh, rook g7, and yes, the c6 rook. Shoot. Rook c6. Oh, shoot. That is absolutely true. Oh. Well, if he, I mean, it's a big success for White that he could trade the queens.
To be sure.
I mean, I still like Black's position, obviously. I mean, he's the one with the initiative after all. But White might not be getting mated, and when White's not getting mated, well,
There is a pawn. There is a pawn.
That could be an issue.
And of course, the rooks struggle when the board is cluttered with a lot of pieces and a lot of play. And the closer you get to just a pure endgame, the better the rook is against the two pieces.
Exactly. Here, I have to be a little bit careful that my... I don't think my knight is good on a4. I think my king would be very good on a4, because then I'd have my pawn on b4 and life would be good. So let me start with check.
That seems like a really big problem for White, because you can't really go to d3 or d1 because of
Then
this,
I wanted to go knight f2
check.
and to take this pawn.
And
then,
if you go to... there's no good squares.
Yeah.
There's nowhere to put this king.
Yeah, it's almost like a puzzle rush where...
Go over here, it feels like you might still get checkmated, even though the queens are off the board.
Right? You know, you get one of these helpmates.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Helpmates, the helpmate pattern.
But okay,
So I
we're
think knight
joking, but
e4
also,
check.
how do you stop it from happening to you?
I mean, that's the setup you want, right?
Like if you go to, I mean, b1 seems like maybe one of the safer squares, but there's a question of a lot of moves. Rook c1 is check. Also, bishop c1 with the exact same idea of knight d2.
Right. And again, you're going for that checkmating pattern with knight to d2, followed by rook to a3, pardon me, rook to c3 to a3. Yeah. Again, this feels good for Black.
Stephen, who was our round one leader,
By the
might
way,
be.
he took the pawn.
Knight e4 looked so good, yes.
Yeah.
It looked so nice.
Well, I have to say, in Stephen's defense, I might have taken it. No, we know that knight e4 was a stronger move, but I want to convince myself taking the pawn is a good decision. I still think that this f-pawn...
Black is doing well.
Very, very well indeed. Like, for example, let's say I go king here. f6, just to put some moves on the board. Check. And I believe that pass pawns must be pushed.
Well, you can't go to d4. There's knight e6.
Oh, even there. You can't go to d4, sorry.
Yeah,
so
many
f6,
squares you just can't touch with the white king.
That's a mine, so it must be here.
That's the only one. And
okay. But now I've got also
just
nice...
Somehow everywhere you go, there's nowhere safe.
For sure. And it's one of those situations where the pieces are anchored. The minor pieces are anchored. The bishop is great. The knight is great. Here, I'm thinking knight e6, but for example, there's only one trump in the position for white, and that's the f6 pawn. If I go rook f7 and just say to you, I'm stopping you. I'm not going to let you. If you go h4 takes, and I will just, I'm not saying it's a win, not at all. I say it's a 2-result game.
Yeah.
I can't lose it with black. Good chances I'm going to win it with black.
Definitely.
So I feel that knight takes a4 maybe is not the best, but it's white that's in trouble. White's still in trouble.
I think Stephen might still be playing for mate in the middle of the board.
And he might be playing for mate in the middle of the board. By the way, let's construct a mate in the middle of the board. How do we do that?
Yeah, I guess it's got to start with a knight c5 idea.
So
maybe king d5. I would go king b5.
Right.
Thanks.
There
Now
we go.
I've trapped you.
Now we're talking. Rook to d1, and that's the mate.
And you could run to the king's side as well. but
Right.
There's
Yeah.
other problems there.
Okay, so where are the other problems there?
Okay, I'll start with rook c3.
That's a good start. Yeesh. Where am I supposed to go?
C knight d3 maybe. I'm
Yeah.
being very ambitious, but
No, it's nice. What else am I supposed to do? I'm just not.
I'm wondering if I can start with the rook check.
Okay.
And now
Where do I go? I can't go to f3. That's a landmine square.
the rook will
Yeah.
fall. And okay, I might as well play rook f2, bishop h2, and think
See
about the
what-
rest.
Yeah, this looks like it should be good enough, right? Knight back to g4. It's like you want to create the Arabian mate, right?
Yes.
Something like this. But it's not that easy. Great. Good. Very, very good position for Stephen here. And
I think he'll win this one.
once again, Alice Lee saved a game. Andy went down.
Yeah, it's been a while since
Irina.
we've. This is not what I expected from Begim.
That is true. Bishop to d7. Okay, a
wait.
little bit of a head scratcher.
Yeah.
By the way, I
can
just wanted to go to the game of Melik for just a quick second because we thought, wait a minute, like I mean, Raja had gone all in, you know, and
Yeah,
like
this is taking some risks.
right? But maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay.
Yeah, I
it
don't
feels-
think. I mean, White can try and
If there was a king
weave
on
something,
e6,
but
yeah,
it's
the
a-
king was
a
on
few tempting off.
e6, we would be more enthusiastic. Want to go to the A group?
Yeah, it's been a while since we've checked in, so
Absolutely. The Crazy Man, Awonder versus Nikolas. Nikolas is
has-
a pawn now,
Awonder secured a pawn.
and when we
Just
left
bishop
it,
c5.
oh, interesting play by Awonder. Bishop to d4, bishop a2, f3, rook takes, and it's kind of when you're a pawn down, normally speaking, you're happy to make the repetition.
Well, this could be one of those cases where maybe Nico was worried that Awonder was only repeating once
to
and
gain
would-
time on
and
the
would
clock,
play something
and then
else,
he would
and
play
thought
something
maybe
probably better.
Rook c8 gives him a better defensive
Chance.
position. Yeah.
Right. Okay. That's. I
don't-
suspect your suspicion is spot on.
I don't think it's Rook c8 with the intention to play for the win.
No,
it's just okay.
Not a big fan of White's king's position. G3, just to prepare to get out of the pin. I don't know. Okay, but we could just say that Black. Wait a minute. That. Yeah. We could say that Black is. I saw Christopher Yu. That was from the previous round. I thought Christopher had drawn the game today.
He did.
And he did.
So we do have a couple more results here in the A group. Antipov and Kuybokarov have drawn, and then Bach in that knight endgame did end up settling for a draw against Ante Brkic.
Let's just see how they did that, by the way, because at a certain moment we thought that
At this moment, we thought
that Ray might, that Benjamin might have been the one who.
fair enough.
Fair result for the play. Ray.
Yes,
Let's
this
have
of course is very critical for the standings. Ray and Andrew tied for the lead.
I liked what Ray was doing. Felt that he was the one.
First, we didn't like what anybody was doing.
Not
and
anybody, anywhere.
And then step by step, Ray was improving the pieces.
Exactly. Whoa, 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 whoa. Did I just...
A2.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Okay, Ray is still for choice?
Yes.
Ah, come on. It's too balanced.
Yeah.
It's
Not
5
enough
versus
pieces.
5. No, I think a draw might be more or less an inevitable result here. Put the pawn. I'm not even sure where you put the pawn. Put the pawn on c6? No. White's king is just as vulnerable as black's king. I think a draw. A strange game for me. I will have Ray will have to. He's got a lot of explaining to do.
Fair enough.
Okay, Awonder Liang, and well, we might be coming to the end of the round here shortly, because that game appears to be drawn, and
they're making a draw on this board as well. It looks like
it would appear, and so it would appear. Draw indeed.
Mission accomplished.
Okay. Our timing was exquisite.
So I think the two games with intrigue are here in the B group.
Irina?
I think Irina's made a lot of progress compared to what we saw before.
Well, for sure, Begim hasn't won the pawn on the h5. Somehow the rook on b7, instead of being tethered to the pawn on c4, that's a big deal. We were worried that the passive rook, right?
Yeah.
With the rook on b7, chances of a draw are really, for Irina, have improved greatly. I can maybe even go into bishops of opposite color and not be worried that my pawns are too vulnerable. So,
yeah, I'm starting to think about more with white. Bishop d3 is hitting f5, and your pieces are a little bit tangled.
Okay, so in fact, let's just kind of gather up. So imagine we play knight d4 check. Are you doing anything other than king b2?
I could think about taking.
Okay. Takes.
And
takes.
Bishop d3.
And king f6. So I definitely want to sidestep the threat of bishop takes f5. I'd be in a pin.
I think I will lose my h5 pawn, but I'm hoping I can bring my king to b4 and play for this passed b pawn.
Makes sense to me as well. King to b3. For me, the question is the bishop on d3 is better than my bishop on d7. So I would be tempted to play this move, but I'm wondering if I should have my king on g5 or not. But let's say I play f4.
I think I should take.
Yep, and bishop f5. This is the key. The key, because if I can get any rook ending, like bishop takes f5, rook, king takes f5, I'm thinking my pawn's more dangerous.
Yeah, already I think I need to play king c2 back.
Exactly, and just
maybe a draw is not so bad after.
Fair. Yeah, that was the question. So let me just refresh the board. What's the clock times?
So king e6 and bishop d3, and Irina down to 3.5 minutes. Begim has about 14 on the clock.
Well, how about this? Begim did not play knight d6 check. She played king e6, allowing bishop to d3. And now the question is, what is her point?
Was bishop e8 the idea? But then rook h7 is there.
Yeah, but I'm liking white in that case.
Very, very scary.
Maybe her idea, as weird as it looks, is
get to h3.
Wow, it's a little convoluted, I must say, but okay.
Bishop d2.
Let's have a look. Bishop to d2. Bishop e8, you could take my knight and go h6. I don't like that passed pawn. That passed pawn looks very, very dangerous to me. Knight here.
Don't know that I want to let you take f2, but maybe I could.
Yeah, well, I mean, in these positions, it's all about whose pawn is more dangerous. It feels to me like white is embracing this position because that pawn on h5 is more...
Move the bishop, h6. It's
Right.
very, very
Foo, foo,
stripping.
foo, foo, and let's go.
But even if I just played after knight h3, bishop e3, just...
I don't know what I'm doing. I was going to go bishop e8 and it
Oh,
looks like
and
Ray Robson and Andrew made a draw.
Yeah, surely that ended in a draw.
Yeah. A lot of toing and froing, but again, we're looking at the big matchup between Irina and Begim, as the advantage has kind of been tossed around a bit, especially in this middle game now ending, and it feels like Begim
Things
has
have
gotten-
drifted.
Yeah, like I liked it when she had the knights on e5 and d4. Maybe she was just picking up the h5 pawn.
And
Here it looks 3 results.
in our other game that we're keeping an eye on, I think
Please.
Stephen has succeeded
Let's have a look-see.
in finding mate in the middle of the board.
He's won, so he probably... Well, it wasn't the middle of the board. It
Yeah,
was
the
a-
white king made it all the way into the black's
Yeah.
camp. Almost scored the touchdown, but
It was great. We had gone on a vacation to Malaysia and the island of Penang, and that's Thailand. So we'd gone to Malaysia, and anyway, our bus ride from the airport literally was, to the island's edge. And there was this beautiful resort at the end of the island, and it was great, great, great. And there was a little grocery store outside of our resort. It was nice to stack up on chocolates and provisions. But right next to that little store was a restaurant. And the restaurant's name was The End of the World. So we would go to the end of the world. And somehow White's King reminds me, it went to the end of the world.
all the way down.
Check. And it's one of those things where, let's say we make a move, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Let's say f6.
Good luck.
Check, here, check, here, mate.
Yeah.
Nice. But check, here, mate. So we kind of get the echo of a knight on b7 and a knight on d7, and you reach the end of the world, and it's
Yeah.
the end of the game. Nice. Let me just see how he achieved this, because we were...
Yeah, we caught it here, and rook c1, knight c5 is what we thought, and
We were
white tried king d4, and yeah, this king b5 idea was also on our minds,
Right,
using the king to close the left half of the board off.
right. Impressively done.
Yeah,
I mean,
very nice
without the
game.
queens, it's not so easy to flush the king out, but Stephen did it very, very well. As it turned out, grabbing the pawn on a4.
He's still getting it.
Pretty good.
But
Pretty good.
with that, I think
Yes.
Stephen will join the leader position once again.
Yes, because of Andy's loss.
Yes,
Right.
so he started off with a win, then stumbled a bit, dropped a point, and now he's back in the lead.
Exactly. Andy losing to the Bronx Bomber.
Yeah, Brewington with a win in his debut at the Classic.
Right. Let's just check it once again
So
with
yeah,
Irina's
Begim
game, because...
did decide on that knight d4 move after all.
And I think this was a very good move by Irina. This, again, these endings very, very often comes down to a very simple equation. Whose passed pawn is more dangerous? And in this position, I don't feel the danger from the pawn on d4.
Definitely not.
It just kind of feels like I've got a pretty good blockade. Conversely, if I can put my pawn on c5, my rook takes, then I feel like my pawn on b5 is more dangerous, and I like what Irina has done.
By the way, your
Please.
idea for black to cause problems was f4 and bishop f5.
Yeah.
And here, black
the
is not
king.
only down a tempo, but has used the tempo to put the king in the way of that plan. So it's like down a couple tempi
Right.
on this plan.
Right.
So it's going to be
We're going to have
gonna
to
be tough
nix,
to-
nix that plan completely in that case. Yeah. It does feel like Begim has let the advantage slip considerably, and she should start thinking about how do I...
I would definitely take white here.
Yeah. Let's just make a few moves because it's still not 100% clear to me.
I like c5.
Absolutely. Takes. Go ahead and kill me.
Let's see. I'll start with king b3.
King b3, and I am hoping that you'll do my work for me by taking on f5. If you take on f5, that was what I was trying to achieve, to trade the bishop so that my d pawn is not gobstopped.
Yeah, and so I guess if I want to try for the win, I have to go king b4, try king a5, try and push forward.
Exactly.
But it's not without risk.
Right.
I'm down the pawn now, and I'm going to have to prove it, I guess.
Absolutely.
But while we keep an eye on this game, I
Yep.
think we have another guest for the studio.
Exactly.
Stephen Zier, fresh off that win, rejoining the leader position.
Absolutely.
So let's get him in the
As
studio.
we swap you out, Caleb, we'll invite Stephen to join us and share his thoughts about his victory today. Oops. And we're just getting Stephen mic'd up as we welcome him into studio. Long time no see. Welcome back.
Yeah, glad to be back.
Yeah, indeed you are. How was it today?
Oh, it was a nice game. It was, pretty chaotic the whole way through. But
Right.
kind of game that I think is a lot of fun. As fun as it is stressful.
Exactly.
Yeah, really glad it worked out.
Yeah, for us, we thought that his combination boomeranged, that sacrificing the rook for the two pieces. But first of all, let's before we get to that, tell us about your strategy coming into the game. Queen's Gambit declined, combat structure.
Yeah, so I saw especially recently, he's been playing d4 pretty regularly.
Right.
And I had this actually, I have to thank Eugene Perelstein for this QGD line with
Yeah.
the early bishop e6.
Okay.
So this specific setup, bishop e6, knight bd setup.
Yeah.
If white does the usual moves, black has this immediate h6, g5, and the trade of the dark squared bishop.
Right.
And I think it reaches a pretty pleasant position. Yeah, so knight h5 here, and the bishop's a goner. And
Right.
then black's dark squared bishop, as you saw in the game, has
Right.
this enormous long-term potential.
Great. So, I mean, it's an imbalance. It's not like you're playing the Queen's Gambit declined and, just setting up a fortress and saying, I'm a solid draw. You're kicking. You got the two bishops.
Right, yeah, this early h6, g5, very much not thematic in the QGD. But
Exactly. On the other hand, if you tuck your king away on the queen's side, then life is good. h5, ambitious.
right, so partially you want to stop white from getting like a clean setup on the king side with a well-timed h4.
Okay.
So you play h5, h4 yourself.
Okay.
And then the knight on f5, it's a pretty strong piece, but it's also completely stuck. So it's kind of like you've got this nice knight there, but what are you doing next?
Right. Yeah. Walter Brown used to tell me when I have such knights, pretty as a picture.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah,
what is it doing?
Exactly. No, it's a pretty knight. It's taking a lot of squares, but there's not really any backup. And
Right.
the problem is if white ever starts pushing the pawns, if things ever start weakening, my dark squared bishop can get very strong very quickly,
Exactly.
right? Which is almost never a possibility in the QGD. But
Right. King b1, king c8, this moment of the game, Stephen? Your strategy, your opening prep's gone well. You're thinking, I stand better?
I'm standing comfortably.
Right.
I'm not sure about better. I guess I would pick black here, so I
Okay.
suppose so. Yeah, if I had to pick a side.
Right, I'm forcing you to make that claim.
Right.
G3, H3, G4. Okay, he cleverly sucked you into playing H3. Is that?
I was happy to play it. I think
H3. Like, for example, if he had started, if he had started with g4, would you have played h3?
Quite possibly. It was a move I was it was a move I was considering. So
then he wins the tempo, right?
Right,
Over
exactly.
the game. Okay, so g3. G3, h3, g4, king b8, f3, rook c8. Okay, an indication that you're ready to play c5. e4.
Yeah,
okay.
e4 was very committal very quickly. It
Right.
surprised me a little. Because e4 leads to this trade of the bishop for the f5 knight.
Okay.
And I felt like after that I should have now I felt like I should be quite a bit better. I don't think I found the best way to use it, but I mean, white's pieces are just so sadly stuck behind these light squared pawns.
Right.
I mean, I don't have time to establish a perfect blockade. If I could just lock these pawns on d5 and f5, I would be in great shape.
Like something like knight f6, bishop to d6, bishop to e5.
Right.
And c5, c4. Give yourself everything. That's your ideal. You have these dark, beautiful minor square pieces on these dark minor squares. Minor pieces on the dark squares. I'll get there. So it looks like you're doing well. And knight e4, bishop f4. Okay, there's one good piece.
Yeah, so my bishop is great, but white's also going to get to play d6 now. There's not much to be done about that.
Okay.
And that locks my knight, which is a bit painful. Like
Right.
That knight's stuck on d7.
Exactly. Pawn on h2. I noticed that's a morsel. That's a tempting morsel. Bishop f3, rook c8. Yes. Here's the question. Knight takes f6. Oh, I thought, with perfect hindsight, of course, that boomeranged.
I agree.
Yeah. But then the question is, what did you expect? If not knight takes f6, did you think he was going to do something else here?
Yeah, so I'm not completely sure what he should do here. I mean, the f1 rook's not doing much right now.
Right. So you think maybe rook f2 or rook e1. Quick question for you. Is the pawn hanging on d6? Like, I would love to play rook d5, except you take my rook. So let me play.
Yeah, so this is
d5.
one move I was thinking about. Yeah,
Right.
aiming for rook d5. And
Right.
so if I take,
Right.
he takes, I take. And I've got this problem, right, of the pieces on the d file.
Exactly.
On the other hand, I have knight e5 escaping the d file with tempo. If you
That's
move the rook.
right.
Yeah, so here, the only question is, do I defend it with the queen first? And here I would think, e5. Because he can also take on b7. Yeah,
Right, it's a little sensitive.
Yeah, it's a little suspicious. I was not expecting that I would play this, but
Right.
I was considering it.
I think that this was actually probably the key moment of the game. And did you speak with your opponent afterwards? Because at first blush, we didn't know what was going on. Then we saw them move queen d8. Wait a minute. Isn't black's pieces are really good.
Right.
Bishop on f4, you're super safe. And maybe white's king is a little vulnerable. At first we thought, oh, but white is playing with Liang and doing nicely. And now we were doubtful that the combination was working.
Right, because, the long term is just so good for me. Because if I ever play c3, his king's going to be unsafe forever.
Bingo.
Yeah, maybe that is eventually what happened. He stopped it for a long time. But.
Exactly. Here we loved your position. Now we were absolutely thinking, okay, now things are great. And, as soon as you engineer c3, especially with the queens on the board, it was great. But somehow he managed to trade queens and make it a little bit difficult for you. At this point, we thought you were winning. We just didn't know exactly what was the best.
Yeah, I think that's a fair summary.
Yeah.
It's tricky because my own king's not completely safe either.
Right.
Like rook h8 is a problem. I mean, he might trade rooks, which also significantly reduces c3.
Exactly. So, okay, b6, and as things turned out, he got very fortunately a queen trade. So now we were like, okay, queen trade, okay, great success for white. How successful was it?
Yeah, so exactly. So I saw this. So I mean, I think despite the missing queens, his king is still in a world of trouble.
Yeah, we started engineering all kinds of checkmates in the middle of the board. Yeah. We were like, oh dear, the f6 pawn looks beautiful, but it's not a big danger. And here, by the way, we thought you had a choice. Knight takes a4. I said, I can't criticize Stephen for grabbing a pawn. It's what I would like to do. We saw knight e4. We just didn't see a good move for white.
Yeah, that's fair. This is also very tempting. And yeah, king d3, knight f2, just take on g4 instead. Yeah, that actually that looks even stronger.
Exactly. But knight takes a4. Hey, look, I mean, you know, you found a very nice mating sequence.
Yeah, once he plays king d4, I think it's over. I think he has to go to e2. I mean, and I should still win, but at least that way I don't see a checkmate after knight c5, king e2.
Knight c5, king e2. Okay, no checkmate, but just great.
Right, yeah. I mean, he's still got problems. Like, I can always play knight e4 and cover f6.
Exactly. Wonderful. Boy, what to say? I mean, from the opening, I like games where I can't criticize myself, and did you make a mistake?
I do. I think there was something I could have done better after I took on f5 in that game. I don't know what it was. Maybe it just wasn't quite as good as I thought it was.
Right.
But yeah, I thought around here I should be able to get something more. Like I looked at a bunch of things. Like I looked at rook h6, b6.
Also looks very tempting.
I mean, if I can get that and the bishop on e5, I mean, his king starts feeling very nervous. Yeah, exactly.
Dream position. Yeah.
He has some of his own ideas here. I think again built around knight e4 and pushing the pawns, or even f6, bishop f5 looks interesting.
Just to get some activity.
Right, because if I take with the rook, there's the spin on d7. If I take with the knight, then my rook on h6 looks ridiculous.
Why did you? You're right, exactly. One of the things I was noticing in the candidates, I was looking very carefully at the accuracy chart, and these players were playing seriously like 98.8% accuracy. This game today, I not compliments because I didn't double guess your moves. I mean, I think you played a really good game.
Thank you.
Keep that up. I'll see a lot more of you.
I hope so.
Stephen, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Absolutely, thank you. As Stephen jumps back into the fray in his tournament, winning, wow, very, very nice, powerful game there, Caleb. We like what we're seeing in this event. As we're going to jump back to the ladies for just a moment, we see Begim and Irina on the board.
Whew.
What?
Things have happened.
I'll say. And boy, they happened quickly.
I think, yeah, this might be our last game with intrigue today, but it's intriguing.
Last game with intrigue, and it is intriguing. It's so funny because this is not the way we played it, but it's like the way we planned it.
Yeah.
We had this idea of king d4, c5.
And somehow Irina making dreams come true.
And the whole f5 and this complex way of playing bishop to f5. But I must say that I like this last move, especially not just winning a pawn, but far more importantly, putting our bishop onto d5 so we can sacrifice. The worst case in that case, the worst thing that can happen to black in case of bishop takes b7 is rook and bishop versus rook, which I used to be proud of myself. I used to be proud of myself. Listen to how it goes. Seriously, it's not a joke. Many grandmasters have never played that ending, rook and bishop versus rook. I have played it multiple times, in fact 7.
Wow.
Wow is right, exactly. It's a rare ending. Played it 7 games in my tournament career. Every single time, I scored the maximum result.
All right.
When I had the bishop, I won. I had the rook, I drew.
It doesn't get much better.
Except, unfortunately, it does.
People have won with the rook.
It's shocking. Hikaru Nakamura was playing against Magnus Carlsen in the Fischer Random World Championships. Magnus had the rook and bishop.
Pretty good.
And he was trying. But in that format, there was no increment. And so finally he got down to like 30 seconds and he decided to offer a trade of rooks, and Hikaru refused. So
Oh, goodness.
Hikaru won on time
Oh, man.
with the rook. So I always said I achieved the maximum, but after Hikaru's victory, I couldn't say it anymore. So there you go.
Yeah. There's
I mean, isn't that just terrible?
a St. Louis player, and now these, of course, aren't Grandmasters, and I won't name names, but he got into rook versus rook in 2 over-the-board games. There was either delay or increment, one of the two. He scored 1 point out of 2.
2 draws.
1 win and 1 loss.
With rook versus rook.
Rook versus rook. No pawns, no
Nice.
anything.
Nice.
But one time, someone just put their king on the wrong square.
Nice.
So,
By the way,
Action.
Action Jackson. Look at this.
yeah, so
Bishop on f3.
some
Suddenly,
checkmating ideas even.
they're alert. I don't know if it's a checkmate, but it's definitely an alert.
Can we ignore it? Can we go b7?
Let's have a look. b7. I am going to give check.
Not
King
much choice.
to c6. I am going to give check.
And so king b6 is rook b8.
Precisely.
And king a7.
Then I am going to take the pawn.
And I'll take back.
And like I said, I
And
have
I
no
can-
losing chances.
I can only draw at best, but I think
And you might be in one of those situations where the bishop.
yeah, I think black might win.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like the bridesmaid.
So then instead of that king b6 move, I think instead I should go to c5. So yeah, and king c5.
King to c5, much safer. Agreed. And here I'll go rook here.
And
Whew.
a couple choices. Maybe rook h7 is something clever.
Rook h7 is something clever because you're going to pick up the d4 pawn.
At this point, I'm just trying to draw.
Exactly.
To end the game.
And I think that's a fair result, for sure. By the way, once again, I think that this was a very nice find by Begim. This whole, when Irina has played the move c5, I have thought the initiative shifted in White's favor, and now I'm beginning to think king takes
I
c5
wonder
was a
if
mistake.
Rook takes was a way to keep it going. Yeah.
Precisely, and maybe with rook takes, first of all, we're stopping the bishop f5 business, right? By covering the f5 square, and second of all, the king is actually not great on c5. We ended up nearly getting ourselves slated.
It's tough.
It was, with just a little bit more effort, we could have gotten ourselves checkmated on that last sequence. It didn't happen because she took with the king, and this is the nice
It looks
find.
like Irina has made a decision. We'll see where we stand right now.
By the way, check.
Yeah, so
Bishop.
instead of b7, rook c5.
Rook to c5.
But again,
Whoa.
we're just trying to make a draw at this point, I think.
We do sacrifice the rook. Okay, good. Whew. For a minute there, I was wondering, what is Irina going to do against rook h3? And then I suddenly spotted that she does have the idea of sacrificing a rook. The rook cannot get back to defend against the b-pawn.
Yeah.
So no rook h3 for you.
So I guess rook c5 will happen, but then
It has happened, I think.
king e5 afterwards? And is white getting that draw? Maybe not. Like h5, h4, and the g-pawn will go.
Is it the same story? So let's have a look, shall we? No, I know. We're going to go bishop g6. We're going to go bishop to g6.
And
Very important move to stop h5.
if I go bishop b7,
And then I will come back. Come back towards life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
It's close.
But you're right. I mean,
Yeah, so
if anybody's
we are getting
playing,
moves. Maybe
we
should
are?
see what's
Yeah,
happening. But yeah, Begim with some outside chances here.
whoa, whoa, whoa.
Wait a second.
Yeah,
Hold on.
wait a minute. Now my head hurts. Bishop to b5.
Who's tricking who?
Irina is still pursuing
Yeah, so
her business.
bishop c6 is a bad idea because there is d3.
Bishop c6 is a terrible idea because of d3. And that just ends the game.
Yeah. f3 square is guarded.
Yes. So what on earth is Irina doing with this bishop to b5?
She played bishop c6.
d3 resigns.
What
We've
is the
seen
move?
it. We've seen it. d3.
What is the move after d3? I mean, you can come.
Okay,
back,
so
but-
she can only be thinking of takes here back.
And then we make a queen. Whew, okay, all right.
But I mean, she is on the precipice
is-
of defeat here.
Yeah, we're gonna need a perpetual if we survive.
Right?
Where is it?
Because I'm ready to run and tuck my king in on g2, and then that's over. I mean, this check is as impressive as it looks. It's not a decisive check.
Yeah, and the f pawn is far too close, and the g3 pawn is playing defense here. For black.
Absolutely, absolutely. This looks lost. I'm sorry to say.
This looks dead.
Irina she overlooks something. I'm not quite sure what it is that she overlooked, but look,
d3 played. We can see.
d3 on the board. And Begim's heart must be like boom, 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 racing as she's sitting there saying, "Oh my goodness, I'm about to make a queen." And
Yeah,
Irina looks like she's just stunned.
There's
by
no other
this
way.
move.
You have to take in bishop f3, but that endgame is lost. There's no other way to stop the pawn. If you try to bring the bishop back, just d2
Too late.
and bishop f3, and
Yeah, it's
black
too
will
late.
play bishop f3. I mean, and
Yes.
it's over.
Wow. Okay, we know the queen ending is losing. Once again, I don't like what Irina has done, but just go ahead and show me
So d2,
d2, bishop to d1,
and now bishop f3.
and you're going to go h5 on me, right? Yeah.
h5.
h5.
Of course, I can't win your bishop because you'll be the one making the queen, but just h5, h4.
Okay,
And
so
Irina has taken on b7.
ooh, she's walking down.
d2 on the board.
She's walking the plank here. We know what's going to happen. Bishop to f3. G takes f3. Pawn equals
b7.
b7. Pardon me. I forgot to through
Queen
with check
king e4
and king e4.
black will escape.
And look at what's going on.
It's happening.
It's happening. Wow.
So queen f4, king d3,
Queen f4, king d3. Yeah, again, very impressive looking check.
queen c4 check, king e3, I guess is the way.
In fact, it's
And
the only.
if I come back to f4, just king f2.
Now I've got what I wanted,
safe.
which is to tuck my king into the g2 square, where, like you said, the g3 pawn is actually, thank you, it's giving me sanctuary. It's preventing your queen from going to h2 or h4, gosh knows where. And
Yeah, we're seeing it played out on the board. And okay, it might take a little bit of time, but Begim will win this game.
I agree.
Maybe
It's
we should,
not the game of Akshot and Begim, where
No.
Begim actually defended the pawn down, queen ending, and got a draw.
Yeah.
This doesn't look like Irina's holding.
Not at
Sorry,
all.
you were about to say.
Yeah, maybe we should start to wrap things up. This is our last game
Please.
in the B group. Maybe we can check in on anything remaining in the A group.
Right, the standings are that we've been treated some fairly decisive games. Yesterday there was 4 out of 5 were decisive. Today in the B group 3, but in the A group, starting off the A group,
the real standings, and have all the games ended peacefully in the A
it
group?
would appear so.
All right, so we have 4 leaders in the A group after 4 draws. We saw Ray Robson and Andrew Hong make that draw, along with Christopher Yu and Grigoriy Oparin, who drew that rook endgame, and everything else also peaceful today in the A group.
So no changes whatsoever in the standings with all the draws, and in the B group with one
game outstanding.
One game outstanding. Our tournament leader, Andy, coming into today's round, unfortunately for him and his fans, he has lost.
Yes, so you see the 0 there leaves him at 2.5 points. So Stephen Zierk and Harshit Raja both join him with 2.5. Josiah was not able to catch because he was on the worst end of that game against Stephen Zierk. Brewington Hardaway chipping away, making some progress forward with a nice win today. Alice Lee, I would say solid with 4 draws, but the games have not been so solid.
Topsy-turvy way of getting those draws.
And with a win today, Begim will also join the leaders, and we'll have 2 4-way ties for first.
Remarkable.
And wait, what is
because Begim
happening here?
When she started the tournament, and I spoke to her yesterday, I think, about her tournament. She explained she was on antibiotics in the first 2 days of play, and she said her head was just not in the tournament at all. She couldn't even concentrate. That being the case, quite a nice turnaround. By the way, I like this move a lot by Irina. Sometimes when you don't have those perpetual checks, you take a pawn and say, okay, go ahead, make a move.
Find it.
It's on you. You have to find the win. I'm not going to do it for you.
I think here we can just push F2.
Unfortunately, I think
we found it.
It wasn't too difficult. I think it was Eric Hansen. We were doing a stream together on Chess Bras, and he says, Yasser, what do you do with pass pawn? Push him, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Push those pawns. F3, F2. Push him, baby.
And again, that G3 pawn is actually going to be harmful.
Exactly. It gets in the way of a number of checks.
Yeah, and we could put a few moves on the board, I guess. Pick a check, any check.
Check.
Come King E2.
Check.
King D2.
I would go
to
to
F3.
Yeah, I'm still thinking about my queening.
Yep. King G2.
Check.
Hiding with the G3 pawn.
And then
Queen F3.
We get this. We get this, right?
Well, actually, if we had played Queen F3 last turn, could we?
Yes, it's the same thing. It's not the same thing. I was going to pin the pawn. And then my intention after king here was queen takes king so that I could keep the pawn in a pin. But unfortunately, king g1, I can't play queen c5. King g1, that's easy win. Yeah, so f2, we're expecting.
Begim will find a way.
Okay, control, refresh.
With that in mind, maybe we can start wrapping things up, because it might take a few minutes here.
King b6. Making the c5 square available. Deep thoughts.
So that is one useful point, though, that Irina is showing, is typically you actually want to bring your king far away when you're trying to hold
Get out of the way. Yeah.
Here shouldn't quite be enough.
And Irina recognizing that she's in a lost ending. This is a pose, by the way, that's very common in my games. When I'm struggling and recognizing that I'm in a lost position, I look at my score sheet and go, Yasser, what have you done?
Where did it all go wrong?
Caleb, thank you. It was a great broadcast.
Well, yes, we do have some more exciting chess here in St. Louis coming up, though.
Always.
Be sure to tune in to the Karen's Cup coming up in just a little under 2 weeks from now, starting June 12th.
The best of the ladies come to town.
Speaking of Irina, I think she might be making a reappearance in the Cairns Cup.
Irina, Anna Zatansky, the defending champion,
Defending
Alice
champ,
Lee
and
will
Alice.
be our 3 American ladies, and then then the big
and the killers.
yeah, and then the killers come in. It's certainly going to be a great fun fest for the Cairns Cup. Nice to have the Cairns Cup back on our schedule. The whole COVID really messed it up for the ladies. They really did.
Yep. Well, that's our round today, Yasser.
Sure.
So be sure to tune in tomorrow for round 5. Our coverage begins once again at 4 o'clock p.m. Right here on YouTube, Twitch, and uschesschamps.com. So be sure to tune in tomorrow for more exciting Summer Chess Classic action.
Thank you so much for joining us. Tell your friends where you're hanging out. Join us tomorrow, as Caleb has said, 4 p.m., and we'll be ready to go for more rounds of chess.
Good night from St. Louis.
Good night. Good job.
This has been a presentation of the St. Louis Chess Club. Any reproduction or distribution of this content without the express written consent of the St. Louis Chess Club is prohibited.